Okay, good afternoon and welcome to the monthly board meeting of the Dallas Independent School District Board of Trustees. We will dispense with the Pledge of Allegiance and salute to the flag due to the need to do this meeting virtually. The following trustees will be participating in the meeting via video conferencing. We have Trustee Flores, Trustee Marshall, Trustee Mitchke, Trustee Mackey, Trustee Solis, and Trustee Garcia. Trustee Foreman and Trustee Johnson will be joining us shortly. Our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Hinojosa, joins us, and I'm Justin Henry, Board President. We have presentations of board recognitions to Kimball High School Girls State Championship Wrestler of the Year, which we're not going to be able to do currently. We'll make sure we acknowledge our great accomplishment when we again resume having meetings in person. We're going to begin the meeting with reports. We're starting with the superintendent's report. Superintendent Hinojosa.
Thank you, Trustee Henry, members of the board. Brief report today. Obviously, I want to thank everyone for their tremendous effort and results to get the district running during this very difficult time with this virus. In particular, of note, are tremendous principals who are out there at the campuses, especially on Mondays and Thursdays, executing two major tasks. One is to feed our students, and number two, to deploy the at-home learning initiative that our team has had to develop and design and implement. We're going to start giving trustees a report next week, at least twice a week, maybe even 3 times a week, as to the status of how our at-home initiative and our grab-and-go meals are doing. We also have a couple of items on this agenda because of the emergency that I'll be covering later, along with Jack Kalanick and our desire to get technology to as many students as possible and to supplement their learning. So with that being said, that concludes my report today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Superintendent Hinojosa. We're now moving on to Board of Trustee committee reports. If you have a committee report, could you go ahead? You can unmute yourself and then share that committee report. Are there? I see Trustee Flores says no. Trustee Mackey, no. Okay, we're going to continue on with the trustee reports. We're going to go in numerical order. So we're going to start with District 1 and then continue on through District 9. So if we can begin with Trustee Flores.
Thank you, President Henry. For the district accolades for District 1, I would like to highlight the work of Ms. Autumn Slosser at Thomas Jefferson's ESL department. Despite having some students with native language that it's not English and it's not even Spanish, but indigenous to Central America, such as Kekchi, these teachers have taken the time to learn words in their language, strengthening the bond with their students and communicating better with them. That's the District 1 report. I also want to thank the staff at all our schools. I hear the grab and go is going very, very well, and it's very much appreciated. Thank you, President Henry.
I'll give the District 2 report. First, I just want to begin by thanking all of our parents, our students, and our teachers and administrators that are dealing with this difficult crisis in our city. I know this is not what any of us hope to be doing in late March. But I really think it's a testament to the leadership of the district and to the superintendent and his team that we've been able to move to virtual learning as seamlessly as we have. I also have some accolades for District 2 to share. I want to congratulate the Woodrow Wilson golf team that won first place at the Dallas ISD golf tournament. Also want to congratulate the Benjamin Franklin Falconettes, who won multiple dance awards. They won first place dance team and overall superior sweepstakes, second place solo, first place officer superior, first place team hip hop, and second place team contemporary, and second place team pom. And, so congrats to the whole team. Also want to congratulate the Woodrow Wilson varsity tennis team that took first place at the Lake Highlands Tournament of Champions, and the Woodrow varsity track team that medaled in all 3 relays, the 800, 1600, 3200, also the 100 hurdles, the 300 hurdles, and the triple jump. I want to congratulate 2 lovely Preston Hollow 5th grade girls that I had the pleasure of spending some time with. who recently made headlines when they put together more than 200 packages of essential items and donated them to teens who were facing homelessness. The bags went to Preston Hollow Elementary, Ponte Madrano Middle School, Ben Franklin, Hillcrest, North Dallas, TJ, and W.T. White. The school counselors received the packages, which were then given in private to school students in need. Also want to congratulate the Hillcrest High Theater Department that went to the UIL one-play district competition and won first place. And also give a big shout out to North Dallas High School teacher Christina Herrera and her AVID students that reached their $1 million goal for scholarship financial aid. And I want to give a big thank you to Dandy Rogers that dropped off 3 giant boxes of donated food to benefit the Dallas ISD Homeless Education Program. And lastly, I'm really excited about the completion of the construction at Hillcrest High School, and I want to thank Scott and Tim and their teams. We had the ribbon cutting scheduled for this Saturday, but obviously that will be postponed, and I will be in touch and share out once another date is set for this awesome event. Thanks to everybody, and hang in there and stay healthy.
Thank you, Trustee Marshall. Trustee Mishka with the District 3 report, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to commend all the students who recently signed letters of intent to return to Dallas ISD as teachers once they graduate, especially those in the Bryan Adams Early College PTAC program, which focuses on education-related careers. It was a proud moment for me and District 3 to see all of these students commit to be part of the district's future. I'd also like to share a message that one of our parents, who happens to be a pediatrician, shared with the Alex Sanger Preparatory PTA. He starts out by talking about the frustrations that we all have, and he in particular as a medical professional, with the inability for the government to provide testing for the coronavirus. But then he talks about other failings in the federal government's response. But then he contrasts that with Dallas ISD, and he writes, however, Dallas ISD during spring break organized drive-through lines so every child has 3 meals per day and 3 days in a single bag, computers for every child who needs one, and deployed its curriculum fully online. First call that I received, the special ed teacher asking how my 2 autistic kids are coping. The program tracking attendance crashed, no problem. Principal Martinez mass called every parent and sent custom Google forms in the span of 2 hours. Exercise, the coach sent a list of suggestions and wants video evidence as proof our kids are not on the couch. It's just one example of parents who feel that the district is doing well to respond here, and I commend our staff, the superintendent, his leadership team, and all our teachers and principals who are making the best of a bad situation. Obviously, we have a lot of holes and gaps as we try to figure out how to do online learning and how to improve food distribution. But I think we're off to a great start, and I really want to commend all of the employees of this district for working very hard to make this happen. That concludes my report. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Mishke. We're now going to move on to the District 4 report by Trustee Garcia.
Hi there, everyone, and pardon me while I figured out internet connection. The second you need it is when it goes bad. But very excited to share that 3 seniors from Samuel High School have earned scholarships to go to college, who are also participating in band. So just about 10 students from the Spartan Marching Band are also in prospect of receiving scholarships for their musical talent and expected to enroll in college this fall. So very exciting opportunities in District 4. And also just wanted to extend my sincere thank you to all of you for all the efforts that have happened across the district. And then we'll go into it a bit further later on. But if there's something that I bear in mind right now, it's the impact that everything is having in a district like mine and a community like mine. So thank you all for the efforts, and I'm excited to hear the rest of what's going on in the district.
Thank you, Trustee Garcia. Gonna move past the District 5 report and go on in the District 6 report and go to the District 7 report provided by Trustee Mackey. Trustee Mackey, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I just want to say thank you to all of the teachers, the teaching aides, the cafeteria workers, the principals, everyone that's out at schools helping to make sure that we make it through as a community in this crisis. So thank you to administration for that, and thank you to everyone who's out there working. I'd like to also jump off of what Trustee Mitchke was saying. We had 36 Sunset High School Collegiate Academy seniors who received a letter of intent earlier this month, which guarantees that those students have a teaching position here in Dallas ISD. So kudos to all the P-TECH students who participated in the celebration and all of our P-TECH students across the district. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Trustee Mackey. Trustee Solis, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to give a kudos to Lucia Sol Montemayor from Solar Prep Girls, who won the first place in the second annual Dallas ISD Poetry Slam. Her poem highlighted her identity, from the meaning of her name and the culture of her ancestors to the school that she attends and the person that she is today. And I happen to know both of her parents, and they have been supportive of DISD over the years and are just great people. And Lucia is certainly following in their footsteps. Additionally, I want to reiterate my thanks to the district staff and the many teachers who are figuring out a way to make this distance learning stuff work, but also to our technology department specifically, because you all have done a heck of a job in a very quick amount of time. And I recognize that we're still learning this process, but what you've done so far, I think, it's a gold standard. So keep up the great work, and thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Trustee Solis. I'm now going to present the District 9 reports. I want to start where Trustee Solis finished. Again, I want to thank the technology department for working incredibly hard over the last few days, and hopefully we have a pretty smooth meeting today. This is the first time that I've done a virtual board meeting. I don't know if it's the first time there's been a virtual DISD board meeting, but I really appreciate your preparation to allow us to have a public meeting, allow the public to participate in that meeting, and try to keep it as normal as possible. So again, thank you. I also want to thank Dino Harris, who's probably one of the hardest working folks in DISD, for helping facilitate all of this. I have one acknowledgement that I want to make sure I give kudos to the great James Madison High School boys basketball team for earning another trip to the state championship tournament game. The team was sidelined, not because another team beat them, but because of coronavirus. So in the semifinals, after they defeated Cold Spring Oakhurst by 90-73 in the 3A state semifinals game, they were notified actually during the game, it was on the big screen, that they were canceling the rest of the UIL state basketball tournament and they wouldn't have an opportunity to play in the finals. So the young men were obviously disappointed. They worked incredibly hard most of their lives to get to an opportunity like that to win state again. It would be their second year in a row. But if you saw them on the news or in some of their interviews, they're completely mature and understanding and recognizing the reason why the tournament was suspended. So hopefully they'll get an opportunity to play the finals game and bring that championship back to sunny South Dallas. That concludes I also want to recognize just our team across the board. Educators, staff, everyone who's been kind of rallying together to deliver at-home learning or pass out lunches. I think we passed out over 100,000 on Monday across the city, which is an incredibly large number. Our counselors for making sure our kids are okay with their social and emotional wealth. I saw many students in classrooms. My daughter participated in this, where the kids were getting on Zooms themselves just to see each other again and their teachers. I want to thank the parents and the guardians of our students who have showed us a little bit of grace during this time. We know it's new. We know it's not perfect, but most people have been incredibly supportive as our teachers try their best to still try to deliver instruction to our kids, recognizing also that our teachers and our staff, they also have children of their own who is most likely at home with them right now as well. So it's an incredible balance that so many folks are doing right now. So I really, truly appreciate that. And that concludes the District 9. We're going to move on to the next part of our agenda, which is public forum Our agenda now calls for the public forum segment of our meeting. We'll begin with speakers to agenda items, followed by speakers to non-agenda items. Mr. Harris, will you please reach out to the speakers and call the names of the speakers?
Yes, thank you. So trustees, today we're doing this remotely, so I'm going to actually call each speaker and get them on the phone, and then you'll be able to hear them and give them their 3 minutes to speak. The first speaker is Bill Betson.
Hello.
Mr. Betson?
Speaking.
Hi, Dallas ISD giving you a call.
Great. Am I set to go on right now?
You're set to go right now. It is your time to speak. You have 3 minutes to speak. Please state your name and address. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Bill Betson, 6717 Cliffwood, Dallas, Texas, 75237. I'm talking today very specifically about the resolution 6.04 that have already signed and approved. And and you already have signed and approved. And I wrote it out, and apparently something is missing in it. The thing I was going to call to talk with you about, and plus some words. It reads, the DISD trustees and superintendents shall relentlessly pursue systemic improvements to policies, programs, and practices in ways that align, eliminate, and between align and eliminate, there's not a comma, there's not a word. I think you may have meant to say two, but it just says align, eliminate the desperate ethnic impact of school closures on ethnic groups and enrich the lives of all children in Dallas ISD. And then you have attachments to that. I went through the entire thing, and the word transparency is not anywhere. And in no place could I find you addressing the need for transparency. And how can you go about these goals if you're not being fully transparent with the public so anybody can go to the DISD data portal and very quickly be able to determine that, yes, they are achieving these goals. And it should be in a huge data format. Y'all remember that I've often spoken about the single spreadsheet transparency for all of the data in DISD. And you've got to start on that under resources with the school information file. I mean, that's a good beginning, but you simply need to add more variables to it so that anybody can go and look and compare all the schools and the various racial distributions in the different schools, and you could determine that equity is happening in the schools. And you don't have that transparency on the website. And I would love to hear from somebody in DISD administration that they are working toward that end. It would not take that much work. There are probably at least a dozen people in the DISD administrative circle who could probably create the first such spreadsheet probably within a week or so. And then they could also go back in time and create the same spreadsheet for every scholastic year going back 10 years. And that would be an incredible testament
Mr.
to the
Betson, your time has expired.
in the district. Okay, thank you very much, and continue.
Our next speakers, there are a total of 5 speakers speaking from T.R. Hoover. I'm going to call them now. Our first speaker from T.R. Hoover is Audrey Evans.
The number you have dialed is not in service. Please check the number and...
Try it again.
Hello?
The number you have dialed is not in service. Please check the number and...
Hello?
Hello?
You dialed the wrong number.
Hello? That's the number we have for T.R. Hoover. One more time.
Hello?
Hello, is Audrey Evans in, please?
Yes.
Okay, it is her turn to speak. Can you put her on?
Okay, hold on.
And the next speaker after her is going to be Rosa Gobia.
Okay, speaking.
Okay, Audrey Evans,
Yes, sir.
go ahead and speak. You have 3 minutes to speak. Please state your name and go ahead and start speaking.
Hello?
Hello?
Miss Evans,
Yes, sir.
go ahead and speak.
Okay. My name is Andre Evans, and I'm a CPO president at J.J. Rose Learning Center.
Hello, is Audrey Evans in, please?
Yes.
Okay, it's her turn to speak. Can you put her on? Okay, hold on.
Hello?
Speaker after her is going to be Rosa Gobia. Okay.
You're going to need to turn your mic down or mute your mic on your end.
Go ahead and speak. You have 3 minutes to speak. Please state your name. And go ahead and start.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay. Yes, sir. I'm here.
Okay, you need to just keep your volume down.
Okay. Okay, I am Andre Evans, and I'm a CPO president from J.J. Rose Learning Center. I'm a single father.
Hello? I still show them connected.
You know, it appears he may have turned down the volume on his speaker as well.
So what's going on? Miss Evans is on the phone.
Hello?
Hello, we can still hear you.
Okay. So, okay, I appreciate each and every one of you, the district administration, for allowing me to be part of the community committee that put the attendance zones for J.J. Rose and H.S. Thompson together. I am also able to appreciate that you participate on the committee meeting to develop transferring each and one of these schools. As the active community member, I participated in 15 meetings and have attended 5 school board meetings in support of the innovative idea that the school district would like to bring to our community. The plan to repurpose J.J. Rose Learning Center into an early childhood learning center that mirrors other early learning centers around the district will support parents and students throughout the community. We are a community hard-working. In many cases, we have not always been able to provide academic preparation that our students needed to be ready for the changing pace of kindergarten. Repurposing J.J. Rose as an early learning childhood center will allow our 3 to 4 year old students exposure to the school district early childhood curriculum. This will undoubtedly transfer schooling for our students and our community. This will always prepare our students to grow into rigorous curriculum offered at H.S. Thompson as a STEAM school. This STEAM curriculum will provide our students with exposure to career paths and spark their creativity throughout science and technology. I am here to speak on behalf of the parents and students in the J.J. Rose H.S. Thompson attendance zone. I work hard on having each parent complete the survey at the DISD provided us to get filled out of how the community feel about these changes. I am proud of our parents for speaking up on behalf of our students and our schools. This survey, please support our goals. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Rosa Gobia, followed by Sherry Mixon.
Good afternoon. My name is Rosa Gobea. I have a son in the 5th grade in J.J. Rose Center. Also have a nice happiness to the attendance to J.J. Rose and the school that runs vertical teams in the school. I am here today asking you to vote for the transferment to J.J. Rose Learning Center in the H.S. Thompson. I work 8 hours in the day and it happened. I have it to the public school system and the health education. My kids' opportunity, I don't have it to education background to teach my kids. I feel like the world have to be better. He be better. They prepare to the school and they have an opportunity to attend this in the early herbal program. So as the early children's programs in the district offer on the parents on the Dallas unfortunately like several to my neighbors and the friends. We are not available to transport kids on the parts of the city on the provide the early children's education. Opening in the early children's learning center inside the J.J. Rose exhibit the education so we will have the prepared to each kindergarten to the 5th grade. I believe the teachers, counselors, the principals, the Joseph Rose have done their best try to support all the students the Joseph Rose. Well, while each of the teams started elementary with the stream education. Gaps or deficit and it has been very hard to teachers to give all the students. To stream the 3rd grade, when I looked the school's report cards and to see that are several students, the Joseph Rose, they are now performing on the above the grade level. We are improving the thanks to Mr. McLean, but it's only a 27% of the students. And meetings grade level performances, we are still for the level. The district varies over the 44% and the state area and 50% truly. Believe they can discuss all the achievements. Please support J.J. Rose James, and the Edges Thompson. Thank you.
Thank you. Sherry Mixon, followed by Mildred Edwards.
Cherie Mixon, 2526 Starks Avenue, Dallas, Texas. I am speaking today to ask the board to vote to support the transformation of J.J. Rhodes to a childhood early learning facility. We're asking that we will take the older kids out of J.J. Rhodes and move them to H.S. Thompson, the new STEAM school to be built. The community has worked tirelessly with the district to ensure that the community has a voice. Where the community has that voice, they have actively participated in many meetings. They have called our trustee and shared their concerns, and they have completed surveys in which continues to carry their voice to this board. We're asking that you will take the stand to vote this way, the community's way, to allow us the opportunity to build our children's foundation for their education at an early learning age. For we know that if we grab them while they're young and we build them up, that when they are old enough and ready to move to the bigger school, when they get to Thompson, they will then have a steady foundation that will lead towards a stronger education for our children, and the success of that is unspeakable. So we're asking that you would stand with the community. We're asking our trustee to vote to move forward with the transformation of J.J. Rhodes and allowing all the children that are older than the pre-K through 3 through 5 to stay at J.J. Rhodes and allow the rest of our children to come home to the new school so that they might have the opportunity of a STEAM school, a brand new school that's in their community. And we thank you for allowing us to participate in the Boundaries Committee and for being an advocate for this change and hearing our ideas and supporting what our beliefs are. Thank you.
Thank you. Mildred Edwards, followed by Danny Mitchell.
Hello, my name is Mildred Edwards. I live at 2614 Starks Avenue, Dallas, Texas, 75215. I am talking to you all on behalf of the Joseph J. Rhodes and H.S. Thompson Learning Center. I'd appreciate it very much if you all would vote for this transformation to be changed over so the kids, the smaller kids, can have somewhere to go and won't be put in with the bigger kids. Give them time so that they can learn how to come in with the older kids and not just throw them in with the older kids and that's it. They need to be somewhere in an early learning center where they can learn at Joseph J. Rhodes. That's what we're asking for. Joseph J. Rhodes to be turned into an early learning center so that they won't have to be in with H.S. Thompson older kids. That's what we're asking for, and we'd appreciate it very much if the committee would vote on this for us. I have been in this community for all my life, and I think it's time that we have something done in this community that the other communities have done. We need H.S. Thompson, a new school. I went to H.S. Thompson. I was born in 19, okay, and that just goes to show you. My mother went to H.S. Thompson, that same building, okay? So it is time we get a new school in the South Dallas area. And our kids won't have to be standing up there on the corners and stuff at dark waiting on a bus to transfer them. We want our kids to come back home, like Miss Nixon said. We want our kids to come back home. And we want the early learning center kids to have somewhere to go so they can learn at an early age how to encounter with the older kids when they get ready to get a certain age, so that they might be able to go on to the new H.S. Thompson School. And we would dearly appreciate it if the committee would vote for the Early Learning Center at Joseph J. Rose and our new school at H.S. Thompson. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Danny Mitchell.
Hello? Hello?
Danny Mitchell.
Who?
Danny Mitchell.
Danny Mitchell.
Hello, Danny Mitchell.
Go ahead.
2246 Anderson Street is the address, 75215. And I want to thank you guys for taking time out and giving us this opportunity to voice our opinion. And I think that this community and we as a body have shown a great interest in both of these schools, the H.S. Thompson and J.J. Rose Learning Center. And I think this will be a fine time to emphasize and illustrate a change in the community would be better for the community, would be better for the kids. It would change the community, but we cannot do that without the help of the governing body if you are not in our support. So I'm just asking if you could please vote in favor of the productive change in the schools that provide foundational learning for the ideal community. And this is an ideal community. This can only happen, though, if you vote in favor of the changes to the J.J. Rose Elementary as an early childhood learning center, serving students from the PK3 through the 5th grade. And please vote in favor of starting the construction on H.S. Thompson as a STEAM elementary school, serving students in kindergarten through the 5th grade. But we cannot get this accomplished if we don't have the support of the people that we dependent on to support us. This would bring change to the environment. I feel that our kids in our community need the same opportunity as some of those other schools that I had an opportunity to visit. We are so far behind in this community to where we still using pen and paper while other people are using electronic devices. They are learning, they are more advanced, and we so far behind with number 2 pencils and white paper. So I'm asking you that you implement in this community the same thing, if not better, that you have for this community, so our kids will have a better chance at succeeding in life. Thank you for your support. Thank you for the 3 minutes that you gave me. And I hope that some good come out of this meeting and that y'all hear our voices and don't push us to the side.
Thank you. Lisa McLeland.
Hello?
Hello, Lisa McLeland.
Hello? McLean?
Okay, yes, sorry.
Yes. Hello, this is Lisa. My name is Miss Lisa McLean. I'm a mother and a grandmother at the H.S. Thompson feeder pattern. I have lived in this community and still live in this community for an extra amount of years. My children has graduated from H.S. Thompson Learning School. That was the top school, elementary school here in the South Dallas area. My grandchildren are now directly impacted as they had to transfer to a new school with a larger class size, and they were piled into a school and classroom that were already struggling. I am coming to you today to first express the frustration, disappointment, confusion, and heartache that the district put to the Ideal and Bonton community through when you close H.S. Thompson. I would also like to express the joy and optimism
optimism that we are now feeling when you presented us with the opportunity to rebuild H.S. Thompson with a nicer school, and you are willing to include the innovative choice programs that are being offered in other parts of the district. Bringing choice programs to our community will be a change agent for this community. You will be providing our students with foundational programs that will help prepare them for a productive and promising career opportunity. Now, opening up H.S. Thompson with STEAM program will inspire our students and expose them to opportunity outside the Bonton community. I want to say thank you to the DISD administration for correcting the mistake of not engaging the parent and student of the Bonton Ideal community prior to closing school. In thinking about reopening H.S. Thompson, the district administration has held community meetings and done surveys to get a gauge of how we feel about schooling, and they have listened to our needs. They have developed a plan that will bring hope and promise back into our community. They understand that if they can engage kids in the learning process during their formative years, then they will develop young leaders that will have a long life love for listening. Today, I ask that you vote in favor of reopening H.S. Thompson as one of the new innovative choice program schools in the district. I mentioned that my grandkids had to transfer when H.S. Thompson closed. I appreciated the teachers and principals for working hard for our students that I feel like they were not given a fair advantage. Dallas ISD has opened a few early childhood learning centers throughout the district. These are great schools, and they have remarkable programs. An early childhood learning center in the Bonton Ideal community will do wonders for preparing our students for elementary school. Reproposing J.J. Rose as an early learning childhood center will allow you to use J.J. Rose as a school within a school. They will have early childhood programs.
Your time has expired.
Curriculum for our 3 and 4 year old students, children that will prepare them to enter.
Our next speakers are 2 students. I'm going to call them up now.
Hello?
Ms. Garcia?
Yes, this is her.
Hi, this is Dallas ISD giving you a call. It is your time to speak. You have 3 minutes to speak. Just state your name.
Okay. Well, hello everyone. My name is Faith Garcia, and I'm a senior at Sunset High School. One of the high schools that was selected to implement exploratory budgeting in Dallas ISD. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. During my junior year, I had gone through some mental health challenges, and during the time, I had counselors at school and got the support I needed on campus. A lot of students find school as a place to receive such care like myself, and also find a safe place from abusive homes. Now that we are facing the new reality of COVID-19, the rate of child abuse has increased because families are trying to figure out ways to adapt to their new reality. I asked the district to ensure principals and teachers to include mental health and family services, hotline numbers, and resources in the online and hard copy packages for students that are provided during this time. I think that is all.
Okay, you're finished?
Yes.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. You have a good day. Bye-bye.
You as well. Calling the next student. Jenny Mendez. more time. That number's not right. That's what it is.
Hi, you've reached 214-948.
There was no answer, so I'm going to move to the next speaker, which is Alona Malone.
Hi, thanks for calling. Please leave your number.
We'll move to the next speaker, Sharon Jackson.
Hi, thanks for calling. Please leave your number. Hello.
Ms. Jackson?
Hi, this is Sharon.
Hi, you have some background noise going on. You want to turn that volume down? You have feedback.
Oh, okay, just 1 second. I think it's actually the meeting that I'm watching, so
That's
let me
fine.
turn that off.
Okay, so it's your time to speak.
Hello, I am Sharon Wright Jackson Steele, and I'm coming to you on behalf of the parents and students. And my goal today is to bring to light the areas that parents have expressed concerns with through the Texas Organizing Project Education Justice Campaign with the stay-at-home online learning platforms. Also, while expressing those concerns, I have a few solutions we would like to offer for rapid implementation. Parents' number one request for their children is technical training and support for parents that are not technology savvy. The solution would be to bring in a YouTube channel and live webinar training that would be able to provide the necessary steps that parents would take with the online platform during the COVID-19 stay-at-home. Secondly, effective communication within the district. The solution that we have come up with is teachers need to communicate effectively with each other so they are not giving students
large overloads while they are at home. Finally, online resources are tedious and confusing. There are too many windows and steps parents and students have to take. Once a student signs on, that should be the solution for their attendance taking. And the network should serve as the attendance taker when they log on to the classroom. We would like to have these implemented by the school board at a rapid rate. Thank you for taking time to listen to me, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Monica Acosta Zamora.
Hello?
Ms. Zamora?
Yes.
Hi, this is Dallas ISD calling and giving you your 3 minutes to speak.
All right. Good afternoon. I'm Monica Acosta Zamora. I reside at 732 West 8th Street, Dallas, Texas, 75208. I'm an alum of Crozier Tech High School, class of 1972, product of the Dallas County Community College and the University of Dallas in Irving, Texas. As an education leader of the Texas Organizing Project, we fight for better schools because we don't have adequate socially relevant curriculum, and the special education department, unfortunately, hasn't improved by very much since my high-functioning autistic son graduated from Adamson High School in 2006. I come before you today to voice the concerns for parents across the district that the extreme technical difficulties in accessing online curriculum and resources are tedious and difficult and confusing. There's a tedious, several websites, step-by-step process that does not allow for some parents and students to even be marked as attending classes, and makes the processing even more frustrating. Also, there needs to be direct access to students, parents from teachers, and administration in a timely manner. Students with disabilities need technical hands-on support with the new reality of schooling at home. The district should prioritize hands-on virtual assistance to this population of students and their families, which would be accommodating to all students if you can overcome that obstacle. I ask the district to reallocate and focus monetary funds that will positively impact students moving from a physical classroom to an online setting in a time-sensitive and critical manner to get it right for everyone involved. I also echo other demands that will be made today by such technical training and support for students and parents, as well as protecting children from unsafe environments. In solidarity with parents and students and teachers of Dallas Independent School District, I'd like to thank you, and we'll look forward to the district taking action for working class families during the time of crisis. I'd also like to recommend that you ask the state for the emergency rainy day fund to fund for some of these
Thank you, Mrs. Zamora. Your time has expired.
Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Zachariah Manning.
How may I help you?
Mr. Manning?
Yes.
Hi, Dallas ISD calling, giving you your 3 minutes to speak. Please state your name and address.
My name is Zachariah C. Manning. Address is 8215 Forest Lane, Dallas, Texas, 75243. My telephone number for anybody that wants to give me a call is 214-597-8887. Again, that number is 214-597-8887. And I give it again at the end of this, my 3 minutes. So, as some of you may know, and first of all, good afternoon to all the trustees and the audience coming in, watching this board meeting. So I'm appreciative of everything that Dallas ISD does and the trustees that take their time to do the things that they do for our school district here. Again, my name is Zachariah C. Manning. As some of y'all may know, I was a project manager in the Capital Improvement Department of Dallas ISD, overseeing construction projects. And I was supposed to have a grievance hearing today, but we've agreed to offset that for a better time in the future once we get past some of this COVID-19 situation that we got going on. But I at least wanted to let everyone know that there are 2 lawsuits that will be filed against Dallas ISD. One of them has already been filed as of today. The other one is in the process of being filed as we speak. So again, anyone wanting to contact me, Zachariah Manning, 214-597-8887. Thank you all so much for the time today.
Thank you. Our final speaker is Alicia McClune.
Hello?
Hi, Ms. McClune.
Yes.
Hi, this is Dino Harris, Dallas ISD, giving you a call, giving you your 3 minutes to speak.
Right now?
Yes, you have to go ahead and state your name and address.
Okay, my name is Alicia McClung, 4718 Riger Avenue. I'm a teacher of almost 7 years and a reading specialist who works with students with dyslexia. Studies show that students can lose up to 25% of a year's worth of learning over a single summer. Now imagine that summer slide doubling because there is no access to in-person quality instruction through the end of the school year. When we return in the fall, we will have students coming to us who are up to half a grade level behind where they already were. TEA explicitly states in their Every Student Succeeds Act plan that students who approach or do not meet standards can only be successful in the next grade level with targeted or significant ongoing academic intervention. Currently, district policy states in their response to intervention plan that targeted or significant ongoing academic intervention may only apply to up to 20% of students in the grade level. This policy is simply not enough for the unique needs of our students, particularly the students in District 8, a district of 19 elementary schools with more than half of students performing below grade level on the 2018-19 third grade Reading Star test. So imagine how this crisis will exacerbate the gaps in these students' learning. In light of school closures and a shift to online learning, I see an opportunity to impact students who are approaching or not meeting standards. The board should continue to keep this top of mind during this time. As leaders, you already understand this great need for closing the achievement gap, and as a district, we have made great strides towards this goal through the Summer CAP program. But at the present moment, the district has a unique opportunity to start preparing for a large-scale academic intervention for our students. We have NWEA MAP data on thousands of students in the district. For students who have taken the MAP test, a student profile report is available for their teacher and guardians.
This provides the exact skills that the student has mastered and the skills that they are ready to develop in both math and reading. My vision is for the district to create platforms for district specialists and teacher experts to create virtual lessons tagged to standards that align with the skills that our students are furthest behind in, and then create virtual academic intervention plans for our highest need students. These lessons can be used ongoing and referenced in the future for community use. We have the chance to create a community arsenal of resources and lead the way for other districts to use this model to help all children. I want to conclude with a huge thank you for all that you and the district do for our students, and I would like to discuss this issue further with trustees and district leadership. You can contact me and view my blog on this subject matter at my website, AliciaMcClung.com, and I've also tweeted each of you a link to this blog post. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Henry, the student, we have an updated phone number for the student that we were trying to reach earlier, so I'm going to try that student now.
Hello?
Ms. Mendez?
Yes.
Hi, this is Dallas ISD calling, giving you your opportunity to speak for 3 minutes. Go ahead and state your name and go ahead and start.
Okay. Hi, my name is Gina Mendez, and I'm the student body president here at Sunset High School, and I am also a member of the Texan Organizing Project. Being a student, I have some insight of what the students are feeling at this moment. Schools create a safe working environment where they can seek help from other teachers, counselors, etc. Schools for some is their second home, if not their only home. School is the only place where students find their motivation when they are not at home. How do you expect students to feel motivated to continue their work when teachers are not available on their regular times anymore? Me personally, I would come to school every day at around 8 a.m. and they are not available anymore. I would leave around 6 p.m. every day and they're not there anymore. I'm not encouraging you to extend the hours, but rather for there to be a check-in with the teacher from the students. Teachers being able to show that they care goes a long way when there is no one else that cares. There is continuous complaining about the workload that has increased unexpectedly when we do not have any tutoring hours anymore. I have teachers scheduling Zoom conferences at hours that do not correspond with their own class periods. Nonetheless, they still expect us to have the same outcome when it comes to test scores. I want to emphasize the need for safer and motivating environments that can be created as simply as teachers checking in during their class time, not only to make sure that they are safe and that they feel motivated, but that they are also understanding their work. Students can barely understand the coursework with 29 other students in the same classroom when they are unable to get one-on-one help. And now the expectations have changed to students being able to understand the coursework by themselves, along with the unencouraging environment these online classes have created. I am asking for everyone's support of more interactions through an online check during the teacher's class time. Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes our speakers.
Thank you, Dino, for doing that for us. I'm going to go back up to something I should have said at the beginning of the meeting, and then we'll continue with the meeting. But we're doing a virtual meeting today, and that's primarily we have the authority to do that because on March 16th, Governor Abbott granted a request by Attorney General Paxton to temporarily suspend a limited number of open meetings laws to the extent necessary to allow telephonic and video conference meetings in response to COVID-19. So in accordance with those suspended rules, we're going to certify the following. Notice of this meeting has been posted online for at least 72 hours, 1 hour for an emergency meeting or emergency supplemental item. Although members of the board are not gathered in a central physical location, we do have a quorum in attendance at this meeting by video conference and or telephone call. We are meeting by use of Zoom meeting software application, which allows two-way communication for members of the public, as we just shown. As we would at any in-person meeting, members of the public who have followed the instructions on meeting notice for registering to speak during public comment portion were able to speak at this meeting. If you would like to provide comment at a future meeting conducted by video conference or telephone call, please follow instructions on the meeting notice. All other meeting procedures will adhere to board adopted procedures to the extent practicable. An audio recording of this meeting is being made and will be made available to the public. We apologize in advance for any unforeseeable difficulties and ask you to take it. If you have any questions about these suspended laws, please call the Office of Attorney General at 1-888-672-6787, or you can email them at toma@oag.texas.gov. Once again, that's toma@oag.texas.gov. So now continuing with our meeting, we're going to now move on to action items. This afternoon, we're going to cast our votes by roll call so that our board services can effectively capture who's making a vote in which way. We'll announce you in district order, your name, and how you'll be voting on each motion. So now moving on to number 5, approval of minutes. We're going to consider and take possible action to approve the minutes submitted for approval. The minutes have been submitted for approval are the audit committee meeting, February 11th, 2020, called board meeting February 18th, 2020, the procurement ad hoc committee meeting, February 21st, 2020, the audit committee meeting, February 25th, 2020, the board of trustees and superintendent workshop, February 27th, 2020, and the board meeting on February 27th, 2020. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
The motion was made by Trustee Flores and seconded by Trustee Marshall. If there are there any corrections, trustees? If no, trustees, will you please cast your votes? We're going to start with District 1. If you can unmute yourself, could you do that for me to make it a bit easier?
Yes.
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 Could you also say your name, please, in advance? That was Trustee Garcia that said yes.
Trustee Garcia, yes.
Trustee Foreman?
Yes.
Ed Mackey, yes.
Trustee Maxey, yes.
Trustee Solis, yes.
Trustee Henry, yes.
The motion passes 9-0.
Thank you, Kay. Excuse me. We're now going to move on to statutory items. Trustees, we have several resolutions to approve. Our first item is 6.01 to approve the resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Dallas Independent School District granting extended emergency leave for all active district employees. I think the administration may have a few words on this before take a vote. Superintendent?
Yes, sir. Thank you, President Henry, members of the board.
I think you need a point of order. I think you need a motion to put it on the table.
Thank you, Trustee Marshall. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
It was moved by Trustee Flores and seconded by Trustee Marshall. Superintendent Hinojosa, you now have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President and members of the board. I want to thank you, President Henry, for being flexible. As this issue started to roll out, we immediately got in contact with you, also with our attorneys, and also with daily conference calls with the Commissioner of Education. What became very evident is that this thing was going to spiral out of control, and there was going to be an indefinite period of time in which we would not be able to have normal school operations. This resolution was drafted by one of our top attorneys. It's very similar to the one that the Texas Association of School Boards has recommended, but this one was particular to us because many districts had some certain date in which they were going to close normal school operations. We chose to go with an indefinite period because the information was changing almost on the hour. And as it became evident that we needed to operate the school district in an efficient manner and to protect our employees. And since the Texas Education Agency has assured us that the school district would be made financially whole for the balance of the fiscal year, we wanted to make sure that none of our hourly employees were penalized. Our contract employees, by definition, have a contract, and so we could easily continue to pay them. But to avoid any gift of public funds, and to make sure that our hourly employees knew that we supported them, we had multiple conversations with the school board leadership, and we decided to put this item on the agenda. And it is very self-explanatory in the resolution, but myself, and I also want to thank Dr. Lear, because she was very instrumental, along with Ramona Soto, in going back and forth between the attorneys and also our finance division. So with that being said, I'll be glad to entertain any questions, comments, concerns, and some of my staff may also weigh in.
I'm going to start with, I don't think Trustee Flores has any questions, but I'm going to go with Trustee Marshall, District 2.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be brief. I just want to commend the administration for bringing this forward and my fellow trustees for being willing to entertain this item. I'll be enthusiastically supporting it. I think second only to our children, the district owes an obligation to our employees here to step up and ensure their financial security during this time of crisis. And so I applaud the administration for bringing this forward and look forward to supporting it.
Thank you, Trustee Marshall. And I'm trying to track hands on this screen on the right, but if you raise your hand as Trustee Marshall, that'll also help me a lot if you have something to speak. So still want to try to keep the order 1 to 9, but if I'm missing you, please raise your hand. Trustee Mitch Cave and Garcia and Foreman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I enthusiastically support this as well. This is the right thing to do. Thank you.
Trustee Garcia.
Following with the thoughts that have already been shared, but to Trustee Mitch K's point, not only is it a good thing to do, the right thing to do, it's a necessary thing to do, especially for communities where we have single mothers or we have mothers and fathers working at our school supporting our students who are now, thankfully, with this resolution, able to continue paying the necessary essential items for them to support their household and their own children, some of which are in our own school district. So enthusiastic support for this resolution, happy that we're taking those necessary steps to ensure that not just the students but their families are able to continue on through this time, and looking forward to being able to carry out and support our extended community, which is more than our teachers and our students. It includes all the families of the ISD. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Garcia. Trustee Foreman.
Yes, I also would like to say thank you to the administration. That was one of my first concerns, was how the hourly employees would be treated during this time of tragedy for this whole country. And so I'm extremely excited that our hourly employees will be paid, and I think that is the right thing to do.
Thank you, Trustee Foreman. I don't see any other comments. I just want to echo the sentiments of my colleagues and thank you all for doing that. So, Trustee Johnson.
Yes, I concur with what each trustee said. I know I spoke with Superintendent Hinojosa a few times in concerns of the hourly employees, support staff, as well as our teachers. And it is the right thing to do. And I think we're all doing what is needed and what is necessary. Administration has done a wonderful job being very flexible and making sure that everything is taken care of. So major kudos to Dr. Hinojosa and the administration. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Since there are no more questions, trustees, could you please cast your votes, starting with Trustee Flores?
Flores votes yes. Marshall votes yes.
Mitch K votes yes.
Trustee Maxey votes yes. Trustee Maxey votes yes.
Didn't hear you, Trustee Foreman. Didn't hear you.
Foreman voted yes.
Mackey votes yes.
Solis votes yes.
Trustee Henry votes yes.
The motion passes 9-0.
Now moving on to 6.02, approve the board of resolution purchasing during emergency extended. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
The motion was made by trustee Flores and seconded by trustee Marshall. It's been properly moved and seconded. Trustees, is there a discussion? Superintendent House, I don't know if you have a comment on this or not.
I think we'll just, Dwayne Thompson's ready to answer any questions. We don't have a formal presentation.
Trustees, could you please let me know if you have any questions by raising your hand or raising your hand on the Zoom app. Okay. Seeing none, trustees, will you please cast your votes?
Trustee Flores votes yes.
Marshall votes yes.
Kay votes yes.
Garcia votes yes.
Trustee Maxey votes yes.
Foreman votes yes.
Mackey votes yes.
Solis, yes.
Trustee Henry votes yes.
The motion passes 9-0.
Thank you. Agenda item 6.03, approve the order of the Board of Trustees of the Dallas Independent School District postponing the May 2nd, 2020 election to November 3rd, 2020. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion been made by trustee Flores and seconded by trustee Mitch K. It's properly been moved and seconded. Approve the order of the Board of Trustees of the Dallas Independent School District postponing the May 2nd, 2020 elections to November 3rd, 2020. Trustees, is there discussion? Okay, trustee Mitch K. followed by trustee Foreman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think we have to postpone the election, and our only choice is the general election in November. I'm disappointed, though, that the governor did not give the boards the local flexibility to set a date other than the November election. 6 months is a long time to postpone. Hopefully, we will be out of this crisis over the next couple of months. But I do feel that the concept of local control should allow the districts, this district and all the other districts, to postpone their elections to a date other than the November election. There are issues with having what is a nonpartisan election attached to the November general election where there are partisan races. So while I am voting yes to postpone the election to November, I'm doing that only because we were given no other choices. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, trustee Mitch K. Trustee Foreman.
Okay, so that trustee Mitch K has regarding a nonpartisan election during a partisan election in November. And I have a question. I understood that there was going to be a July, is that the July 17th for the runoffs? Why did we not consider that as a time for the election?
Mr. President, I think I can respond to that. We got notice from the county that they could not execute any election at any time in the near future. And so I think then that's why the governor was hearing similar things from other people. And so the governor just, our county said they couldn't execute anything prior to that. And that so therefore it got moved all the way to November.
So is there or is there not a July election?
Well, we would have had one for. We would have had one in June for a runoff. There is one for the state. Yes, there is one for a runoff
That's
for the.
The runoff.
Yes.
Election in July. Is that correct?
That's correct. Would you like for us to see if we could pull it off then?
I would rather see us trying to pull it off then. It just seems like waiting until November and a partisan election is going to skew possibly the way the turnout is. And I just have some concerns about that. And the first thing I thought when I heard there was a July election and we were only talking about November. I wondered why.
Yeah, I hate to even ask Clay Jenkins to even have any conversation about this because I talked to him this morning and he is really busy with a lot of other things. So let us get through this crisis here in the next couple of weeks, and then I will engage a conversation based upon what direction I get from the board president about an alternate date other than November, if that's the will of the board. But I'll turn that back to the board president and see if you want me to pursue that.
Go ahead, Trustee Marshall.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no objection to delaying the vote and will obviously adhere to the wishes of the board. But given that one consequence of the movement of this election is to extend the terms of Trustees Foreman, Trustee Solis, and myself, I'll be abstaining from the vote. Thanks.
I don't see any other comments. Superintendent Elsie, you asked me a question about my thoughts in regards to this. From my understanding, what we heard from the county is they were unwilling to support for very valid reasons. For example, one being the locations that they use as polling locations, most of those are closed. So if you think about rec centers or schools, we've closed our schools. So a lot of, I think it was like 44% of their polling locations that they used in the past are effectively closed. And then the other thing was a lot of folks, and all of us have voted frequently, a lot of the folks that work these polls are in that vulnerable category in regards to COVID-19. So, you know, my concern would be, I don't know where we're going to be at in July.
Point of information, Mr. President, if I may.
Go ahead.
I've spent a bit of time becoming familiar with the governor's order since it impacted my election. And to be clear, although the county has made the statement that they're not willing to support an election from an administration perspective, the governor's order actually does not allow local boards to elect to move the election date to any date other than November 3rd. So even if the county were willing to add the school board nonpartisan election to the July state election ballot, the governor's order does not suspend election code in a way that would make that permissible for this board to decide. So it isn't really a county issue or a school board issue. It's to be determined by the governor.
Thank you, Trustee Marshall. I think that answers the question then.
That's very helpful. Thank you. Yes.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, trustees, will you please cast your vote, starting with Trustee Flores?
Flores votes yes.
Marshall abstains.
Mitch K votes yes.
Trustee Garcia votes yes.
Trustee Johnson?
Trustee Johnson abstain.
Abstain, Trustee Foreman.
Mackey votes yes.
Solis abstains.
Trustee Henry votes yes.
The motion passes 5 voting yes and 4 voting no.
I'd like to, point of order, I'd like to clarify.
Abstain.
I'm sorry, 5 voting yes and 4 abstaining.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, 5 voting yes and 4 abstaining.
So now we're moving on to agenda item 6.04. It's the last item to approve the school repurposing or close the resolution for Dallas ISD Spring 2020. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
I believe Trustee Flores made the motion and Trustee Mackey seconded. So it is moved and seconded to approve the school repurposing or closure resolution for Dallas ISD Spring 2020. Trustees, is there discussion? I wanted to begin, just kind of give background since this resolution is drafted, not by me, but presented by me. I will try to be as brief as possible. But the purpose of the repurposing closure resolution First, let me back up. I want to thank the folks that helped draft the language of this resolution. That includes some community members, some of my colleagues on the board have provided feedback, and the administration provided feedback as well, including providing the hard data that's behind the resolution. It comes from, under the racial equity umbrella from my perspective. I think it's a resolution that's just a natural extension of that commitment. It's not an indictment on any person, individual, board, assist, et cetera. It's really more of an indictment on a system that has historically kind of provided some outcomes that I don't think are equitable. And it's also, I want to be very clear, it's not a resolution in response to any action made by this board or the administration. I've been incredibly pleased by the community partnership of this administration with the community that I represent, from east to the west part of my district. But I also think the district would make many decisions that have immediate impacts and lasting impacts, and we have data now that can measure those impacts. I think that's what this resolution is about. For the folks that have already read the resolution, there's just a disparate impact when we have closures. It's not just a Dallas ISD issue, it's really an urban issue across the United States. So this resolution is trying to get a statement from you, my colleagues on the board, an affirmation of a commitment to trying to address a system that has inequitable outcomes. So I know intent matters. I think there's a lot of great people on this board that have great intent. But our society has certain systems that follow a certain pattern that just provides different outcomes for different people. And very frequently it's linked to race for whatever reason that might be. So one of the things I believe our roles as trustee is to revise that system. We have ability to make policy and change the infrastructure of a system so that we can get different outcomes. So that's the impetus behind this resolution. I really like the board to support this idea of this resolution. I want to reiterate, it's not an indictment on individuals or the administration. I'm particularly happy with Superintendent Host and Chief Elizalde and Jolie Healy and some other folks in the administration that have really authentically partnered with folks in my community to reach outcomes. But I really do think this resolution is the first step to kind of developing policies that require our DISD system to be very intentional about the decisions being made and working with the community and the board to develop such things. So my 2 cents on the policy, I'll open the floor to my colleagues. See. Trustee Marshall, I saw your hand up. We'll start there.
Okay, I want to start first by clarifying the language. I had the same question that Mr. Betson brought up during the open comments section. I believe there must be a typo in the last paragraph because I'm not sure what the let it therefore be resolved that. I'm not sure what that statement is supposed to read.
There is, and if I can ask my colleagues for unanimous consent for the resonated language, that word just needs to be removed or the line. Where it reads, give me 1 second.
So it should say in ways that eliminate the disparate ethnic.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I think if we can just make that in the record, that would help. So, Trustee Henry, I had reached out several weeks ago to talk more in depth about this, and then with the COVID crisis, I know we've both had other things to focus on, and so hope we can both extend one another a little grace for not having this conversation prior to today. But I had voiced to you some concerns, not with any of the statements in this document. And to be clear, I agree with every single statement in this document. And so I'm a bit conflicted about how to vote on this resolution because I agree with everything that it says. But I am concerned that it does not include the commentary of all the other factors that go into a decision about when and whether or not to close a school. To me, a school closure decision is one that has many different elements that are all worthy of being included in the conversation. And those there's a very lengthy list of those decision criteria, one of which is certainly equity, and I would put that near the top of the list. But there's also issues about student performance in the school, about the enrollment in the school, about the physical condition of the building. There's just a very long list of considerations that I think an informed and responsible school board should take into consideration before making a decision about closing a school. And it worries me a little bit that we're passing a resolution talking about our approach to closing schools and only highlighting one of those dimensions. And while it is a very, very important dimension, and arguably the most important dimension, it is still just one dimension. And passing a resolution that omits any mention of all of the other criteria that one would evaluate when closing a school strikes me as a bit disingenuous, and it further strikes me as something that could be used as, sort of a conversation starter to, in the future, when we're having a conversation about closing a school, this could be used as a sword to say, oh, well, we said we weren't ever going to close any schools that, had a disproportionate number of African-American students, even if every other criteria might suggest that that's still the most prudent thing to do. So I wanted to voice that concern and hear what your response is to that, because like I said, I'm pretty conflicted about voting for this resolution, even though I agree with everything it says.
Yeah, first, thanks for reaching out. I think COVID-19 has put a hiccup in a lot of the things that we've been trying to do the last week. So I've been meaning to follow up and have that conversation with you. A few things. I think I agree with you. There's a lot of factors that should be considered. One of the things, if you study this type of issue, is whenever you close schools like this, what ends up happening is the children, the school that's closed, the schools the children end up in are lower performing schools than when they were initially. They're closing a school where there's higher academic achievement, and then you're placing the same students in the school where there's lower academic achievement, which is problematic. But it's one of the factors you're describing that should be thought about when you're making decisions like this. If I close school A, where are the children going to end up? Are they going to end up in a school that's a higher performing school or a low performing school? And I can list out about 20 other things that could probably be contemplated. I began working with the community to develop that list, because some communities have already experienced this, so they can very quickly give you some indicators that they wish were being used. So I don't think this resolution is to lay out the indicators. I hope to bring a policy before the board, and wasn't able to do that. Trustee Flores warned me about that, but I also didn't expect COVID-19 to come about. That really outlines all those other indicators, but this policy is specifically to the history of Dallas. And if we look at the history of Dallas, and I think you talked about this, top dominant factor has been race when it comes to closure. Who's been impacted the most when I say predominant factor? We have, not to go back into it, but 44% of the students that were impacted in 2011 were African-American students. So I understand a policy could be more encompassing, but this is just kind of laying out the facts and the history of this district. And we could probably add in other groups in there, but I wanted to focus on the groups that's been impacted the most. The same way racial equity office focuses on our ELL learners and our African-American students the most, and they're also achieving at the lowest level academically. No fault of their own. It's a system issue. So if you look at the recitals again, the only resolution that's being made at the end, and I'll read it, says, let it therefore be resolved. I'll read it correcting the error in it. Let it therefore be resolved that the Dallas ISD Board of Trustees and the Superintendent of Schools shall relentlessly pursue systematic improvement to policies, programs, or practices in ways that eliminate the disparate ethnic impact of school closures on ethnic groups and enrich the lives of all children in DISD. So the actual resolution doesn't specifically name African-American students. The data behind it in the recital is just painting a picture of what the district. So I think it does encompass all of our students. Now, if this switches to Latino students, I think this resolution still applies. Whatever ethnic group is disparately impacted by the closures of schools, I think this resolution would cover. So that's my response. I think that hopefully addressed.
Yeah, well, thank you for that clarification. I just have one other question, and before I ask that, just a point for Trustee Henry. Your mic is having trouble picking up your voice when you move from side to side. So
thank you.
Just as a heads up.
Thank you.
So
we worked hard to get this right.
Yeah, exactly. Just for a question for the administration, we do have a board policy related to the closure of schools, and I think it's even there's been some proposals in the last couple of years to update and change that policy. But this conversation today is a resolution, not a policy, and so I'm curious what the administration's sort of assessment of how a passage of this resolution would or would not impact the applicability of the policy, and how and when the administration would bring forward conversations about future potential school closures while adhering to both the policy and the resolution.
Thank you, Trustee Marshall, and I'll take the question. I may ask Stephanie Elizalde to add. I too had the similar concerns that you had, because we actually have some criteria about school performance and school size that in the policy that are that could be an impact on this. So I had some reservations at first, but after talking to my team, when you actually look at the wording, it's something that we can support at this time with some reservations. We do know, and I do know the danger that you described, that, well, this board passed this resolution. Why are you going to close a school on the endangered species list when it has 155 kids? So that's the only reason I was concerned about this. But after talking to my team, we can live with some modification words that were put in. Dr. Elizalde, anything to add to that? Nothing to add from Dr. Elizalde, but we had the same issues, but we think we can live with it in its current state.
All right. Well, I appreciate that additional context. I just want to make it clear that, there are some extenuating circumstances that would make the policy trump the resolution. I mean, if you paint an extreme example of a school that only had 10 children in it, and, we couldn't afford to continue to operate that school just because it only had 10 children, and the cost of having a principal and food staff and teachers and all of those things would necessitate us closing that school. And if all 10 of those students were African-American students, or all 10 of them were Latino students, I mean, one way or the other, that school would need to be closed simply because of the reason that there wasn't adequate financial ability to support that school. And in that circumstance, this resolution may imply that the school should not be closed, but the board policy would imply that it should. And since policy trumps the resolution, I can get comfortable with this resolution if the administration is. I just want to be clear that this is one criteria on which we should evaluate potential closures. It's not the only criteria. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Marshall. Trustee Foreman.
So, just from a historical perspective, there was a school closed in my district with almost 500 children that was majority African American at the same time that the schools in South Dallas was closed. And so I want to make it clear that policy is not always followed, because the fact of the matter is that we were supposed to be closing schools with 250 students or less. And that did not happen with Holsey Middle School. The other thing is that now that we have so many choice schools, and some of them are small schools, are we going to use the same criteria with the choice schools that we're using with our neighborhood schools? That's something to take into consideration. Trustee Henry, I certainly will support your resolution, because as we all know, resolutions do not trump policy. But I think it is important for the board to make a statement about the people that are impacted the most and how we're doing this. And I'll be talking about that later on. But the fact of the matter is that there are small schools throughout the district, and those schools don't seem to be impacted by the policy. When you have 44% of the children impacted were African American, we're 23% of the district's population. So that's almost twice as many. So I just think that it's important that we make a statement, and I will be supporting it.
Okay, Trustee Mackey and then Trustee Johnson.
So in looking at this, I have one clarifying question. I noticed another area that seems to have a blank, which is the date. Let me find out exactly where it is. It's in the 8th paragraph about the closure of 11 schools. And I just wanted to get clarification if we're going to be able to put a date in there. I'd love to make sure that this was full and complete.
Is someone from the administration? I don't think we're going to be able to confirm that date right now unless Chief of Audit.
That's fine, but I would like to make sure that it does get included.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Trustee Johnson.
Trustee Henry, I know that I concur with Trustee Marshall. I know we didn't get a chance to talk about the resolution, but I just want to make sure that I'm correct with your resolution. This is more equity driven, preventing schools from being closed without us doing everything we can to build that particular school back up. Is that correct?
So the resolution, as some of our colleagues already mentioned, is a statement on behalf of the board. The policy is going to more dictate. That's the intent, but that's going to have to be in the policy.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that
there'll probably be a multitude of factors.
Okay, well, I'll be supporting the resolution. I just want to make sure it sounded like it was equity driven, and I was listening to the historical point from Trustee Foreman. So I'll definitely be supporting it. And of course, listening to our superintendent, I believe this will be a resolution and a policy that we all can work together and bring all our minds together to do what's best for kids. So I'll be supporting this. Thank you.
Trustee Mitch Kay.
Thank you. Those 11 schools were closed a year before I ran for the board, so I don't have all of the background on what took place and what factors were taken into consideration. But to Trustee Marshall's concern, the way I read this resolution is that this is that this resolution requires us to take into account equity considerations in addition to other considerations. And my sense is that equity considerations were not specifically taken into account in 2011. But even if they were, I think it is very good for the board to reaffirm its overall equity policy, the prior equity resolution, that equity issues will be taken into account in determining whether or not to close a school. So again, I support this. Thank you.
I don't see any other questions. Flag me down if there are before. Okay, trustees, will you please cast your vote, starting with Trustee Flores?
Flores votes yes.
Marshall votes yes.
Mitch Kay votes yes.
Trustee Garcia votes yes.
Trustee Maxey votes yes.
Foreman votes yes.
Mackey votes yes.
Solis, yes.
Henry, yes.
Trustee Henry, yes. Okay. The motion passes 9-0. I can't hear Trustee Henry.
Sorry, flipping between. So we're moving on to consent agenda items. Before we begin the consent agenda items, I want to provide a bit of context and then make a request to the board, and then the board can decide as they see fit. There's been a lot of things have been moving and changing because of COVID-19. Trustee Foreman intended to pull a few items for separate vote. She wasn't able to get the seconds in time for the polling. I've talked to her. I would like to second those agenda items, but I can't do that without suspending the rules. So if there's not any objection, I would like to offer to the board to suspend the rules. And the rule that would be getting suspended is the rule that requires a trustee to get a second before the 5 p.m. deadline for the meeting. So there's no objection. The items that will be pulled will be 7.03, 7.04, 7.16, 7.33. If there is an objection, we'll vote.
Trustee Henry, can you repeat those items again?
Yes, there's 7.03, 7.04, 7.16, and 7.33. And I recognize this is abnormal and outside of just the kind of the whirlwind schedule I think all of us have had in the last few weeks. Wouldn't be making this request, but I'm asking colleagues on the board to offer a little grace and allow us to pull these four for separate vote. Are there any objections?
I don't have any objections, but Trustee Henry, I'd just remind you, when you turn your head to the left, we can't hear anything at all that you're saying. So, yeah, I think you might need
I tried to switch the head, but okay, I got you, Trustee Marshall. Okay, so then we're going to proceed with the consent agenda items excluding, so we're going to continue with the consent agenda items 7.01 through 7.36 as amended. The following agenda items have been pulled for a separate vote, including the ones I just discussed. So 7.03.
Trustee Henry, can you hold for a minute? I will need to pull those 4 items out of the consent in order
Yeah, absolutely.
to vote
It's my fault.
individually.
Yeah,
Okay.
take your time.
4.0, 7.04, 7.03, 7.04, let's see, 7.16 and 7.33, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Can we confirm those numbers, please? Because those are different from the numbers that I have.
Foreman, can you go off mute and confirm those? I'm sorry, 7.02, 7.04, 7.16, 7.33. Is that what you have, Faye? Faye, if you're speaking, I can't hear you.
We have 7.02, 7.11, 7.15, and 7.33.
I'm sorry, 7.02,
Yes.
7.04.
No.
No.
Okay,
We
then
have- Go ahead, Kay.
Joyce, you're still on mute.
We have 7.02, 7.11, 7.15, and 7.33. We have those 4 items to be pulled for separate vote.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, so let me pull them.
Thank y'all for y'all's patience.
Trustee Henry, could we just go ahead and, let's see, 1 second. Trustee Henry, let's go ahead and just vote. I'm having a problem turning these consent agenda items into action items to be voted on. I was able to turn the first one into an action item, but it's affecting all the consent items. So could we just announce the vote and not use board docs, and I'll just announce the vote by hand?
That's fine with me.
Okay, because it's affecting the all the consent items.
Okay.
We'll have to do the roll call on each one of those separately.
Each one of the consent items, or?
No.
No. The items that you just pulled for separate vote.
Yeah, that's okay. That's fine.
Yeah. Okay.
So we can go ahead and approve the consent agenda item?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So trustees, do I have a motion on the consent agenda as amended?
Move to approve.
Second.
Trustee Flores made the motion. Trustee Marshall seconded to adopt the consent agenda as amended. Trustees, will you please cast your votes, starting with Trustee Flores?
Flores votes yes.
Marshall votes yes.
HK votes yes.
Trustee Garcia votes yes.
Trustee Johnson votes yes.
Trustee Foreman? I can't hear you. Trustee Foreman?
Yes.
Mackey votes yes.
Solis, yes.
Trustee Henry, yes.
The motion passes 9-0.
Okay, so we're now on the item 8.01. Actually,
7.02. See,
we're going to start.
Trustee Henry, okay, we're on 7.02. Even though I'm going to click on 7.02 for you all to vote on, it will have a vote, but that's not the correct vote because it was part of the 7.02 was part of the consent agenda. So ignore that those votes, and we will fix the minutes to reflect the correct vote.
Point of information, couldn't Trustee Henry just refer to the 7-point series of numbers rather than the 8s?
I thought he was pulling 7.02 for a separate vote, and
right, but he was referring to 8.01 and 8.02. I think it would be easier if for the remainder of this meeting he referenced the 7 series of numbers and disregarded the 8s.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Except when you get to the pull for separate vote items, we can vote on those the correct way. But the consent agenda items, they already have a vote. So Ms. Foreman's 4 items already has a vote attached to them. So that's what I'm talking about. We would just need to.
So when I go to the item for pull for separate vote, I can reference the 7-point whatever number.
Yes.
We can take the votes and correct the minutes afterwards.
Correct.
Okay, so I'm going to start with 7.02, which was one of the 4, and then 7.11, which is one of the 4, then 7.15, and then I'll go back to 7.31, which is the first, which is 8.01 on our agenda. I'll go in numerical order based on the number that's attached to it on the consent agenda. Does that make sense?
Okay, we're voting on 7.02?
02, yes.
Okay.
Okay. So we're now on 7.02. Just pull for a separate vote. Consider and take possible action to approve amendment of board policy BBD local board members training and orientation. Second read sponsored by trustees Henry, Solis, and Mackey. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion been made by trustee Flores and seconded by trustee Marshall. Trustees, are there any discussion?
Yes.
So I have Solis and then Foreman. No, Foreman and Solis, we're going to stay in the numerical order.
So my question on 7.02, which is the amendment of board policy BBD for board members, and it's training and orientation, and it's for Robert's Rules of Order training. And what I do not understand is if this is mandatory training for all board members every year, or exactly what this training is, because some board members feel they need the Robert's Rules of Order training on a yearly basis. Some do not, and I'm one that do not. So I need to get a clarification of exactly what this change is.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Trustee Foreman, for your thoughts. And I guess the first example of, I think, how we may need training would be that in a case like this, given that I've written this policy and have had the opportunity to be able to explain it, that technically it'd be nice, and per Robert's Rules of Order, I should be provided the opportunity to explain this first, and then anyone that would like to offer an amendment could then jump in and offer that amendment. So, like, there are little basic things that, are procedural things, but these are rules that we have all agreed to follow. There's a much larger issue here at hand, and this issue is the notion of continuously improving the effectiveness of our own government model. In the last meeting that we had, I made a mention of a report that was done by the Legislative Budget Board in their review of the operations of the Houston Independent School District. This is something that the Houston Independent School District decided to opt into in an attempt to better understand how they might improve the effectiveness of their district. And after 400 pages of study, one of the most critical pieces to the improved academic achievement of the students in Houston ISD was governance. And one of the suggestions that the Legislative Budget Board made was that they be provided annual training for Robert's Rules of Order. And over the course of the time that I've been on the board, and I know many of our trustees have been on the board for some time, the need for Robert's Rules of Order training to help our meetings run more efficient, empower each of our members with their own powers that they are due in Robert's Rules of Order. I think it would be a prudent approach to the improvement of governance and our model if we all went through a training. And the training can be provided, as the policy states, by our own professional, Faye Matthews. I've had the opportunity to work with Faye outside of the district and learning about what she has done in improving parliamentary effectiveness of other boards. And so I think this would be a unique opportunity for the board to continue to put its best foot forward in operating in an effective fashion on behalf of the students that we serve. Robert's Rules of Order will be the easiest way for us to be able to do this process. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Trustee Solis. Trustee Mitch K. and then Mackey.
Trustee Mitch K., I think you're muted.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's a no-brainer that trustees should be trained on Robert's Rules of Order. I'm surprised we didn't have this already in policy, but I'm a little concerned about the number of training sessions we're supposed to have on it. As I read biannual, that means twice a year.
That's correct.
Is that the intent, to do it twice a year?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
As opposed to every other year?
Absolutely. Twice a year, yes, sir.
Okay, well, I would think once a year should be enough. Twice a year is putting so much emphasis on Robert's Rules of Order to the exclusion of other areas that we should be trained on. That's my view of it. Thank you.
Trustee Mackey. I just want to say that I am obviously fully supportive of this. I mean, I have read through this book page after page after page, the entire thing, and I still have tons of questions and things come up. And it puts into perspective how much more we all still have to learn about Robert's Rules of Order. So that's why I just want to say I'm thankful to be able to have this policy here. And I think this is something that would be truly helpful to all of us and our governance of this body. Thank you.
There's no one else for the first. Trustee Marshall?
I just wanted to be clear that I'll be supporting this resolution and I mean this policy change, and I'm not sure why we wouldn't all want to get better at running a tighter meeting and understanding the rules of order and the procedures that we should be following. Miguel likes to frequently remind me that I call everything a point of order, even though they are not all necessarily point of orders. So mainly just to quit giving Miguel cannon fodder to point out my mistakes. I'm eager to learn to be better so that he has nothing to complain about any longer. So I'll be supporting it. Thanks.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes, I guess my question is, I saw the amendment. For those that are master trustees, are we saying that this is mandatory for each trustee or may? So is it shall or is it may?
There hasn't been a motion to make an amendment. I also think we'd have to suspend rules to do that because I don't know. Well, the amendment was submitted in time, but there hasn't been a motion to amend. So the language we're evaluating is the shall language.
It's the shall language. Okay. Personally, I support getting better as being a trustee, but I'm a new trustee, so I have no objection to this. My question will only be for those that are master trustees. I think Trustee Michigan is the master trustee, I believe, and Trustee Foreman is the master trustee. If I'm correct, so if I'm not, then I apologize if someone help me out with that. But will they be required to do the same? I know myself, I'm new, so I don't mind doing it. I think it's healthy. I agree with Trustee Marsh, but those that's been doing it a while, it's like putting training wheels back on the bike that you're used to riding. So can someone help me with that? Do we need to do an amendment, or are we going to go with the shall?
Mr. Chair, if I can address the first question about whether master trustees would be included or not. In the language that I proposed, that would include master trustees.
Thank you, Trustee Solis, for that clarification. Trustee Johnson, the language right now that we're discussing is the shall language.
Thank you, Trustee.
If there aren't any more questions, Trustee Flores in the first round, see you. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm supportive of doing the twice-a-year training. I've been a trustee for approaching 12 years, and I don't know the Robert's Rules as well as I should, and I don't know. I mean, I'll ask Trustee Mitchcave if he wishes to opine. But I mean, I've looked at the TASB training for master trustee, and I'm not sure it included any training on Robert's Rules, but I could be completely wrong. Thank you.
Okay, we're finishing the first round. We'll begin the second round. Trustee Foreman.
Okay, so a few things. In the TASB training for master trustee, it includes a lot of things. And certainly Robert's Rules of Order is not at the top of the list for training. I believe that part of the reason that the board doesn't function well is because of some of the hidden agendas at the board level, not because of Robert's Rules of Order. So that's not the real issue. And thank you, Trustee Mitchcave, for pointing out it's a twice-a-year training. So my question would be, if a trustee decides not to attend, what are the repercussions for that trustee?
The way that I've written the policy, there are no repercussions outside of having not followed the policy. And when we report at the end of the fall semester and at the end of the summer semester, it will be reported that the requirement wasn't.
So my concern, Miguel, is that you are bringing forth a policy and you're leaving the board that you don't even have to follow yourself. I don't know how much time many of the other trustees spend at being a trustee and doing training, because if I'm not mistaken, most of the trustees do not go to TASB's training. I am one that consistently goes to training, and that is a record. That is a record. Check my record. Most of the trustees don't go to any other training. And so I have some concerns about this. I think I do like the idea that Trustee Mitch K talked about once a year for those who want it. And I do like Trustee Johnson's thoughts about may instead of shall. And so I'd like to offer the once a year and the may instead of shall as an amendment.
So Trustee Foreman has made a motion to amend the language to change, each board member shall to each board member may undergo biannual trainings. Is that correct, Trustee Foreman?
May go biannual, correct. Not once a year.
So there's two amendments then. One is each board member may undergo annual, changing biannual to annual trainings on its responsibilities.
Correct.
And Mr. Chair, if I might raise a parliamentary inquiry.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to call it a point of order.
And I would just like to ask about this specific policy that allows us to make amendments at the table at this time and in policies and amendments that can't be made.
Okay, would you like to chime in?
You have to suspend the rules.
Yes, in this particular thing, BE local requires that the board would have to waive its suspend the rules for this particular amendment, because although Ms. Foreman did submit it in advance of the 12 hours, and she did, we didn't get the second for that particular item. So again, as Trustee Foreman had pointed out earlier, we would have to suspend the rules. Or we can do it by unanimous consent.
And to clarify, she just suggested two amendments, and she only submitted one of them prior. So only one met the 12-hour deadline, not the second.
That would be correct.
Correct.
You're on mute, Justin.
So does Trustee Foreman need to make a motion to suspend the rules for both of those circumstances and receive a second, is what I'm hearing?
Correct.
Okay. Trustee Foreman?
Okay.
Henry, you could actually do that as the president.
You have to do it.
To ask to suspend the rules.
So,
seems like we need some training.
So, I'm making a motion to suspend the rules so that Trustee Foreman can amend one, so she can add an amendment that wasn't properly submitted to change biannual to annual. And then she's also offering to amend the shall to the may. Does that work, Kay?
We need a second.
Is there a second?
Is that Ms. Foreman?
Yes.
Okay. You can vote.
Voting starting with Trustee Flores.
Well, hold on. What are we voting on?
Right. So who was the first and who was the second?
Yeah, and my understanding of suspending the rules was that it wasn't a motion. It was something requested by the president with subject to objections. But if we had some training, we'd probably know that a little better.
I object.
So then trustees cast your votes as to whether to suspend the rules. And I try to be respectful, so I'm going to ask someone to side comment to stop. if you don't mind.
Trustee Flores?
Trustee Flores votes no.
Marshall votes no.
I want to make sure that I understand that what the vote is. The vote is to suspend the rules so that the amendment can be made. Is that correct?
Yes.
This is not a vote on the amendment.
Correct.
That is correct.
Okay, so it's a vote to suspend the rules to allow the amendment to be considered, not a vote on whether or not we support the amendment.
Correct.
I support, yeah, okay, so I support suspending the rules to allow the amendment to be considered. So I vote yes.
Trustee Johnson, I vote yes.
Trustee Garcia, if we can remain in order.
Trustee Garcia votes yes.
Trustee Foreman votes yes.
Mackey votes no.
Solis, no.
Trustee Henry, no.
The motion fails. 4 voting yes and 5 voting no.
So now we're voting on the language as is. So I'm going to give my discussion piece before we take a vote in the second round. Unless are there any other questions or comments in the second round? I agree with Trustee Mitch K in the biannual aspect. I think it's probably better if it were annual. I don't think there's really teeth in this policy. No disrespect to Trustee Solis, except that at the end it's announced that someone, if they didn't complete the training or not. But I do think this is something that our board needs to do. I think we can benefit from constantly learning. As the president of this board for a few months, I can definitely appreciate, even if you watch this meeting from what just went on in the last 15 minutes, I can definitely appreciate the value of this type of training in order for us to be efficient as a board. I think it's a good policy. I think it's something we need to get training for. I don't think it's a perfect policy. I think there's master trustees and non-master trustees. So Lisa isn't a master trustee. Going in Robert's Rules of Orders. Then you have folks like Trustee Flores has been on board a long time and said he has some work, and you have folks like Trustee Foreman have been on the board and our master trustees and are pretty fluid in this on their opinion, in Mitch K as well. So I think there's just diversity of opinions on this, and I think it'd be good if we get a shared construct on how we operate under the Robert's Rules of Order. Are there any other comments in the second round?
You're muted.
Mute. Did y'all hear any of that?
Okay, you do it again, sir. I couldn't hear you.
We heard you.
We heard
I
the
heard it. I heard
You just went on mute about 2 sentences ago.
Okay. If you could please vote starting with Trustee Flores. I wasn't going to repeat that, by the way.
Can we restate the motion, please?
Yes,
What we're
please.
voting on?
So we're now voting on the agenda item, which is 7.02, if you look in the consent agenda item, with the language as is. So we're voting to consider and take possible action to approve the amendment of Board Policy BBD. And this language includes the shall language. Trustee Johnson has a question before we vote.
So the amendment to switches from shall to may fail. So we're voting just to place this in policy, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, it's coming across a little slow. I'm a little behind over here, but we got you.
Not alone. I am too. Okay, trustees, could you please cast your votes?
Trustee Flores votes yes.
Marshall, yes.
Mitch K, yes.
Trustee Garcia, yes.
Foreman, no.
Mackey, yes.
Trustee Johnson, yes.
Solis, yes.
Trustee Henry, yes.
The motion passes, 7 voting yes and 1 voting no.
So we're now moving on to agenda item.
I'm sorry. So, Trustee Solis, you voted yes?
That's correct.
Trustee Solis, you voted yes?
Yes, ma'am. Solis votes yes.
Okay, so the motion passes 8 voting yes and 1 voting no.
So moving on, 1-1, consider and take possible action to approve a contract between the Dallas Independent School District and the Dallas Symphony Association, City of Dallas, for the use of the Morton H. Meyerson Symphony Center for Booker T. Washington High School for the Performing and Visual Arts 2020 graduation on May 27, 2020, not to exceed $11,729 student activity funds. Trustees, is there a motion?
Move to approve.
It has been moved by Trustee Flores and seconded by, was there a second?
I'll second.
Mackey seconds.
Trustee Mackey second. So they're probably moved and seconded. Trustees, is there discussion?
Yes.
Trustee Foreman.
So I had an opportunity to talk with Stephanie Elizalde regarding this particular issue. While we were talking about policy, sometimes I think we need to read the actually agenda items to make sure we are doing what we need to do. The $11,729 is coming out of student activity funds. And so that's the Booker T. Washington Student Activity Funds. And there was a date specific on here, May the 27th. Ms. Elizalde has assured me that they will move the date specific off so that there is no chance of the Student Activity Fund losing the $11,000. So I'm pleased with that.
Thank you, Trustee Foreman. Are there any other questions, comments in the first round? Trustee Garcia.
A question on the student activity funds where these $11,000, nearly $12,000 will be taken from. Are those the general student activity funds simply for Booker T. Washington High School?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
The trustees, will you cast your votes? Starting with Trustee Flores.
Flores votes yes.
Marshall, yes.
Michika, yes.
Garcia, yes.
Trustee Johnson, you're mute.
Yes.
Foreman, yes.
Mackey, yes.
Trustee Solis.
Trustee Solis not present to vote.
Okay, Trustee Henry, yes.
Henry, yes. The motion passes 8-0.
Okay, agenda item 7.15, consider and take possible action to authorize, negotiate, enter into a contract with recommended vendor for financial audit services not to exceed $2,600,000 over 5 years, including renewal options, general operating special revenue bond funds. Trustees, is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion has been made by Trustee Flores and seconded by Trustee Marshall. Is there discussion?
Yes.
Trustee Foreman. Trustee Foreman.
So I actually had this item pulled and I raised the same concerns in the audit committee meeting regarding the auditor. I have no problems with the current auditor, but it appears that there is general practice that at some point you would change auditors to be able to codify and verify that all of the issues that you're concerned about would be taken care of. And we've just given this auditor an additional 5 years. We'll be giving them an additional 5 years after they've had 5 years with the district. So that would be a total of 10 years. And I'm absolutely opposed to keeping the same auditor for that length of time.
Thank you, Trustee Foreman. Any other questions or comments? Okay, trustees, will you please cast your vote starting with Trustee Flores?
Flores votes yes.
Marshall, yes.
Michika, yes.
Garcia, yes.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Foreman, no.
Mackey, yes.
Solis, yes.
Trustee Henry, yes.
The motion passes 8 voting yes and 1 voting no.
Now we're moving on to the items that were originally pulled for separate votes. I'm still going to use the 7 numbers. So 7.31.
Trustee Henry, you missed 7.33. Ms. Foreman pulled 7.3.
Yeah, thank you. So we're going back to the ones that Trustee Foreman requested be pulled. 7.33, consider and take possible action to approve a resolution negotiating enter to a lease agreement with Robin T. Conlin and make the necessary alterations for the development of a career institute to be located at 13,400 Midway Road, Farmers Branch, Texas, not to exceed $879,170 general operating funds. Trustees, is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second. Trustee Flores made the motion. Trustee Marshall seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Trustee Foreman?
And this would be for the administration. I don't know if the administrative people are there that could answer this question, but I noticed that we are leasing, and I don't know the time frame for the lease. But I know that we've also talked about building a new career institute in that area. So where are we on plans for the institute, and how long is the lease?
Okay, so this is Yvonne Durant. Can you hear me?
Hey, Yvonne.
Hi. Well, this is a 3-year lease, up to 3 years, with 3 1-year additional renewal options. And the reason we have this lease is that we needed a place to move in this spring and this summer so that we could have the Institute North ready to open for the students. This is while our permanent site is being readied for occupancy.
Where would the permanent site be?
That is something that will be brought to the board in April, I believe.
So we know, but we're not telling the board yet.
Well,
we're still working on that, Trustee Foreman. So we will be bringing a recommendation next month.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. For folks in the administration, before you speak, if you could just say your name, please.
I can't hear you, Trustee Johnson.
We can't hear you, Trustee Henry.
Thank you. Got it. I was reminding folks from the administration, when you hop on and answer some of these questions, if you can mention your name first for the folks that might just be listening. And then, are there any other comments? Any other questions for the first round? None. So, we cast your vote, starting with Trustee Flores.
Trustee Flores votes yes.
Marshall, yes.
Mitch K, yes.
Trustee Garcia?
Screen's frozen. Trustee Johnson, maybe.
Yes.
Trustee Foreman?
Yes.
Mackey, yes.
Solis, yes.
Trustee Garcia, we didn't hear yours for some reason. I think it froze. If you could touch your
Trustee Garcia votes yes.
Thank you. Trustee Henry votes yes.
The motion passes 9-0.
So now we're on to the items that were originally pulled for separate votes, starting with keeping with the 7 numbers. So 7.31 to award and enter into a contract with Radcliffe Construction LP Prime Star JV to construct the new H.S. Thompson Elementary School in conjunction with the bond program, not to exceed $23,641,800. Bond funds, consent item 7.31. Pulled by the administration. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Trustee Flores made the motion. Trustee Marshall seconded. It has properly been seconded and it's been probably moved and seconded to award and enter into a contract with Rex Prime Star JV to construct the new H.S. Thompson Elementary School and conduct the program. First round, let's see, Trustee Foreman. Go ahead.
So, does this also include the changing of the attendance boundary?
No, that's a separate vote.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to make a brief comment. Just thankful to finally see this get across the finish line. I know there's a lot of folks that have been working to get this across the finish line. Scott and your team, I appreciate your diligence on trying to expedite the process, including working with the city regarding permits, which I think has historically been an issue. So that being said, if there's no other questions, if we can go ahead and cast your votes, trustees, starting with Trustee Flores.
Flores votes yes.
Marshall, yes.
Michke, yes.
Garcia, yes.
Trustee Maxey, yes.
Foreman, yes.
Mackey, yes.
Trustee Solis?
Trustee Miguel, yes.
Trustee Henry, yes.
The motion passes 9-0.
Now to agenda item using the sevens again, 7.35 to approve the attendance boundary changes for J.J. Rose Elementary School and H.S. Thompson Elementary School for fall 2021. No funding required. Consent item 7.31 pulled by Trustee Henry. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Trustee Flores made the motion. Trustee Marshall seconded. It has been moved and properly seconded to approve the attendance boundary changes for J.J. Rose Elementary School and H.S. Thompson Elementary School for fall 2021. Is there discussion?
Yes.
Trustee Foreman.
So I'd like to start out with clarifying my statements regarding H.S. Thompson. As you know, or many of the board members know, Trustee Blackburn, Trustee Nuttall, and myself pushed to have H.S. Thompson rebuilt, and I'm glad to see that happening. I do have some serious concerns with the attendance boundary changes. I lived through watching what happened to Julius C. Frazier and other schools in the area that were closed in 2011 and what happened. My understanding is that many of the T.R. Hoover people who are actually in the H.S. Thompson area are supportive of moving all the students over to H.S. Thompson. But I heard one of them talk about the H.S. Thompson students standing on the bus stop to catch a bus to go to J.J. Rhodes. Now it will be just the opposite. The J.J. Rhodes students will be standing on a bus stop. Too often people think of South Dallas as just one area. It is not just one area. And that needs to be understood. The question about repurposing, we are closing a pre-K or kinder through 5th grade at J.J. Rhodes and proposing a pre-K 3 to pre-K 4, I'm assuming at that site. Where there are many African-American women that are in the pre-care business that we will be essentially putting out of business. Is that what we want to do? I have a question of the administration. When we closed the schools recently, did we close our pre-K centers also?
I can't think of one pre-K center that we closed, Trustee Foreman.
No, the pre-K centers were not closed when we closed the schools.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Are you talking about the partners, or are you talking about?
No, not partners. I'm talking about the fact that we are definitely closed right now because of the virus. did we close our pre-K centers also?
Yes, they're all closed. Arlington
Okay.
Park and
But
Harlem.
our partner sites are still open. Is that correct?
No, ma'am. I don't believe that the partners are open either.
Well, I think some of the daycare facilities are still open.
Well, that would actually be in violation of the order.
No, the daycare facilities, I believe, are still open. And so the question would be for me is, what will we do in South Dallas when we effectively put all of the daycares out of business? Then who's going to take care of the 0 through 2-year-olds? Is that going to be the DISD's new role to take care of them? I hope not, because that's not one of our core competencies. And so I'm hoping that that doesn't happen. I did hear one of the speakers, Mr. Mitchell, speak to roles remaining of pre-K 3 through the 5th grade. So I think maybe he was misinformed on what he was really there for. I will not be voting to effectively close another school in South Dallas. That will affect the community in more ways than just closing the school. And repurposing is just a pretty term, but you're still closing kinder through the 5th grade. So I will not be supporting that. Thank you.
Trustee Henry, we can't hear you.
Yeah, are there any other comments in the first round? Seeing none. First, I just want to, I'm going to take my time to do my comments. Let me time myself. Sorry, multitasking over here. First, I want to thank all the folks that have been involved throughout this process, whatever side folks are on regarding to making this decision. As you heard some of the speakers say earlier, there's been extensive amount of community meetings, which was incredibly important. From my perspective as a trustee, one of the things that many of you know is just providing opportunity for all is very important to me. It's not just the resources and the programs we put in our schools, but it's also providing everyone a seat at the table to have a discussion, a thorough discussion, an honest discussion about the good, bad, and the ugly about decisions. And I think the administration and the community, there's trust to be built there. I think they've offered each other a lot of grace. Had a ton of meetings about this particular topic. I've lost count. It's over 15. We've had them at JJ Rhodes. We've had them at churches. We've had them at the T.R. Hoover Center, as you mentioned. We've had them in Bonton, but not at the T.R. Hoover Center because there's people that couldn't get to that building. There's been phone calls and all kind of discussions. So I really appreciate the opportunity for some people to have dialogue about this important subject. I also appreciate the different perspectives, some that Trustee Foreman laid out. I share a lot of those concerns. At the end of the day, just trying to find a balance on what are we doing to make the best decision to provide opportunities for our kids. I'll tell my colleagues on the board before we make this vote, one of the most persuasive things for me in the end, frankly, is some parent polling. I think you saw last board meeting when this was after the multiple meetings. I don't know if at that point it's probably 13 or 14 meetings. But they had one more recent meeting. I asked the administration to go to JJ Rhodes and really just try to poll some parents because they want to happen to Rhodes what some folks were describing happened at Thompson, where people feel like they were sending their school was closed and they're sending their baby across town when they had a good school right there. So it's important for me to hear the voice of the parents at JJ Rhodes. In the administration, the last meeting, they had 3 people at that last parent meeting, but since then, they've been very intentional about providing surveys to families and following up with them. So you saw PTO members or PTA members or CPO at Rhodes in the front of the building at drop off and pick off, giving the surveys, asking the parents their thought and capturing the surveys. And I'm going to take a moment to pull up at least a copy of the survey just to speak to the number. Give me 1 second. Should have had this pulled up already. So they had to stop the survey on around March 13th because of COVID-19, as you're all aware of. So they haven't been surveying since then. But at that point, there's 614 students that are enrolled at JJ Rhodes. It's about 448 families. They received 357 responses. The number of family responses, because there's more than one person in a family, so this is going to be lower. There's 253 responses. So they effectively polled 58% of the students represented at Rhodes. They also polled 56% of the student enrollment, which might not sound like a hard number, but for those who've tried to organize parents at any of our schools, to get 56% participation in anything is pretty difficult to do. And I think it speaks to the intentionality of not only the administration, but the community members to really get the input from the parents. And I was concerned, well, that could just be the H.S. Thompson parents saying they want the school to be back at H.S. Thompson. That wasn't true either. 23% of those respondents were zoned to H.S. Thompson. 61% of them were zoned to Rhodes. Most of the survey results came from students that were zoned to Rhodes. And when I say zoned to Rhodes, I mean zoned back to Rhodes, the attendance zones that existed before H.S. Thompson was closed. The results of those surveys was 72% of the families wanted to move to a new STEAM school at H.S. Thompson, with Rhodes becoming an early learning center. A similar number, 72% of them preferred to have the new H.S. Thompson keep its original attendance boundaries. That's keeping two separate small. I'm sorry, they voted against that. I'm sorry, 72.3 voted against keeping the two separate small neighborhood elementary schools. So whereas I heard a lot of folks on a lot of different angles of this, the parents, this many parents speaking this way is incredibly persuasive to me, because I feel like the role of the trustee, one is to encourage community engagement. We also empower our community. This speaks to the point where I don't think our parents are going to feel like they haven't been part of the conversation and they're not ultimately getting what they prefer. Again, I wish it was 100%. I wish it was above 80 or 90%. But that's the response that came from those surveys at the campus level. So that being said, I'm going to plan on supporting steering committee's recommendation to go to new H.S. Thompson and consolidate the J.J. Rhodes and H.S. Thompson into the new H.S. Thompson and make it an early learning center. Again, very wary and understanding and appreciate the challenge that it will be for providers that provide earlier education opportunities, especially our partners, even before DIST was. And I also want to add the language around making an early learning center. It's very different, closing a school and leaving it vacant, as opposed to closing a school and immediately having a solution for that school, which is, again, part of the intent behind the resolution that I proposed earlier. I think DIST, when they make these decisions, they could model this type of procedure, meeting with the community frequently and often, polling parents to see what their preference is, making sure you put resources in schools so that people want to go to those schools so they can get special services that we see all across the district. One of the things that I left out was the administration actually took a group of both the Rhodes and H.S. Thompson community on a tour to visit some of our other schools. And Lozado had to chime in, but I know Arlington Park was visited, Solar Prep for Girls was visited, a school in Pleasant Grove was visited, just to see what this district is capable of. I think those parents saw that, and now they're trying to activate and get those type of opportunities, both early learning and STEAM type opportunities. So I'm happy to support this. It hasn't been an easy process. It got to a point where some people in the community were saying they're tired of meetings. And I'm okay with that, because I'd rather them be tired of meetings than not understanding or not knowing what's going on, whatever their opinion might be at the end of the day on the vote. So, again, I don't have anything else to add to this particular issue. And are there any other comments from any trustees? I see Mitch K, Marshall, Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I support this resolution, and I also want to commend you and the administration for going the extra mile to help build a consensus around this change. And I think it'll be great to have the school open again. It was very sad that it was closed 7 or 8 years ago, but I'm glad that this board will be making a commitment to this community. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're on mute, Justin.
Trustee Marshall and then Trustee Johnson.
Okay, thank you. I'll be brief. I'll be supporting this as well, and I also want to thank the administration for the effort and the elbow grease they've put into in getting the community involved here. But mainly the reason why I wanted to speak briefly is to publicly give Trustee Henry a shout out for his effort on this topic. He has lost a lot of sleep over this particular topic and has been an unbelievable advocate for his community and working to understand the different perspectives at play and to make an informed and not only intellectual decision, but also an emotional decision. And this has been a tough one, I think, for him to get his head around, and he worked diligently to do that. So I think everybody in District 9 should really be proud of the representation that President Henry has given them on this topic, and I'm happy to follow his lead and vote to support this. Thanks.
Thank you. Trustee Johnson.
I too want to commend Trustee Henry for his diligence, tenacity, and working through this journey that he was been on concerning this policy. I believe I attended one of your meetings, and it was real. It was a real meeting, right? And I think Ms. Dr. Elizalde, she had her staff there. Is that correct, Trustee Henry?
Yeah, Jolie Healy was in many of these meetings.
All right, yeah, I'm still I didn't want to butcher her name and mess up and make sure I had the right person. But again, Dr. Elizalde is incredible in my opinion, in my eyes, when it comes to working with the community, listening to the trustees, and working through all the difficulties that at times we do bring concerning certain issues. And one of the things that was a help to me concerning this, Trustee Henry, was listening to the PTO president that called in, the young man, I don't remember his name, but I served as the PTA president for South Oak Cliff, and also the chair and vice chair for the site-based decision-making there, and also the president of the South Oak Cliff Parent Coalition. And one thing that the parents and the community members would like is for our trustees and the administration to listen to us. And we did that. And you've done that, the district's done that, and to hear so many your constituents call in, and especially the PTO president, that spoke volumes to me. So I will be supporting this. Again, major kudos to Dr. Elizalde and her staff. Major kudos to you. And I'm going to follow your lead on this as well and support it. And I think the community is going to be excited about what's getting ready to happen in District 9. They have a great trustee. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Garcia and Flores.
I believe Trustee Flores was first.
Trustee Flores, sorry, apologies.
No, ladies first.
I'll take it. Following Trustee Johnson's comments, I think this sets a great example about the kind of interaction and engagement we need to be having with our community members when things like these impact. The scale of the impact is beyond just where students go to school. It's families and their movements. Families sometimes move and relocate just for the sake of the school that they want their children to attend. So the impact of schools for local communities is immense, and I commend you, Trustee Henry, and everyone involved in the administration for really, truly engaging people in a way that listens to them and that takes into consideration just, again, the very local impact that this will have in their day-to-day lives. And Trustee Henry, admire the leadership that you have demonstrated, not just in this occasion, but in many others. I'm very grateful that I have something as an example for me as a new trustee to look forward to, and the sort of engagement that I look forward to have in my district, District 4.
Thank you, Trustee Garcia. Trustee Flores.
Yes, thank you, President Henry. I'm going to echo Trustee Garcia's comments on your leadership. I think that getting that level of answers from the community, it's hard to get that kind of community input, and your leadership in this item. I know we've kind of been kicking around for a couple months, but I think it makes a huge difference when the community gets, their voice heard, when everybody gets to participate, again, the administration, commend them for their efforts as well. And like I did in 2011, I'm going to be supporting the lead of the trustee from District 9. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Flores. It's not any comment. I just want to add one thing. Particularly appreciate the support, but it's definitely, we don't really have fiefdoms. This is about empowering our community. So the administration and the community really worked hard. You don't get that type of response without the PTO president out in front of the school, reaching out to his colleagues and parents to get that type of information. So definitely, I didn't mention it enough, but definitely kudos to our community and the administration for listening. With that, trustees, could you please cast your votes?
Flores votes yes.
Marshall, yes.
Mitchell K, yes.
Garcia, yes.
Trustee Johnson, yes.
Trustee Foreman?
Not present to vote.
Trustee
Mackey, yes.
Solis, yes.
Trustee Henry, yes.
The motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Now moving on to agenda item 7.36, using the 7 numbers. This is to authorize, negotiate, and enter into a cooperative agreement with recommended vendors for the purchase of mobile hotspots and related services for student internet access, not to exceed $2.5 million through June 30th, 2021. General operating special revenue funds. Agenda item 7.36, pulled by the administration. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Flores, seconded by Trustee Marshall, to authorize, negotiate, and enter into a cooperative agreement with recommended vendors for the purchase of mobile hotspots related.
President Henry?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a couple of comments. 2 or 3 of you mentioned that the technology department had done an outstanding job in trying to get resources to our students, and I concur wholeheartedly. As we've gone down this journey, one of the biggest challenges we've had is connectivity. Although it was smaller, Dr. Elizalde and her team surveyed the parents, and we actually found that it was less than what we anticipated, but it was still significant. And so Jack Kalanick has done a lot of work, and the foundation has stepped up. So I'd like Jack Kalanick to kind of give you the vision for what we're doing here, that he has put together an immediate plan, a mid-range plan, and a longer-term plan to try to address this issue. So, Jack, if you'll pick it up from here, please.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. Jack Kalanick. First of all, I just want to thank you for your consideration on this item. Apologizing in getting it on the agenda late, but it was a rather recent development. If I could just give you a little bit of context, we've been building internet infrastructure at the campuses for years. We've been invested, 15, 20 years building robust internet access at our campuses. But this is a little bit of a new area, a new frontier for us in terms of providing internet access potentially to students at home. And, the situation came up on us very quickly, and I think we've reacted to that. But fortunately, we were in a very good position to start with because we've been investing in the computing devices for students over the last 2 years. We've been investing aggressively in that. We've been investing in our learning management systems and our platforms for learning, and obviously training teachers to use these new digital tools. So when we shifted gears with this COVID situation, we were able to respond very quickly. So a couple things, just in terms of numbers, as Dr. Hinojosa alluded, we knew that we would have some internet gaps for our students out there in the community. We weren't sure exactly how large those gaps were. And so Chief Elizalde and Chief Cordova came together, and we launched a survey, a telephone survey of our district last Friday. And so we sent school messenger calls out to 70-some thousand families. We had about 18,000 respondents to that survey, and we just asked a simple question, whether these families had internet access at home or whether they didn't. about 30% of the respondents indicated that they did not have internet access at home. And so that kind of set us on the course for this. Now, I believe that our near-term strategy is focused on mobile hotspots. And I can tell you why we're focused on mobile hotspots. Number one, we have some experience in this space, just due to the work that our some philanthropic partners have provided us over the last year. So we have about 8,000 or 9,000 mobile hotspots out there today that have been provided by either the 1 Million Project or the Verizon Innovative Learning School Grant. So we have about 9,000 devices out there today. We do have some experience with this technology. It works very well. It's easy to support. It provides robust bandwidth for these students wherever they are in their homes. And so that we decided that would be our near-term strategy, was to use hotspots and go further into this space. And so we've been discussing with the various telecommunications providers, what that would look like in terms of scaling up with that effort. Fortunately, the Dallas Education Foundation has also adopted this as a priority, and so they've been out raising money through their donors to kind of help with this effort, and that's how we arrived at the item that's on for board consideration today. The last piece I would say about our strategy is that this is a near-term strategy to get us through the COVID crisis and potentially through next year. We are entertaining some longer-term strategies, including things like community Wi-Fi or private cellular networks, and we have earmarked some placeholders in the 2020 bond for that type of work. But in my experience, it would take a little bit longer and requires a little bit more development and engineering to get something like that off the ground. So we view this as an interim strategy to help us with our digital learning initiative for the foreseeable future as we work through this situation.
Thank you for that update. I want to give trustees the opportunity to ask questions. I see Trustee Marshall's hand. I want to go ahead and start, Trustee Marshall.
So, Jack, I just want to take a moment and acknowledge you and your team for what you have, really the heroic work that you've been doing over the last couple of weeks. I know IT, by its very nature, is not typically the sexiest thing or the item that's front and center on most people's mind. And I think, typically you're only hearing about problems rather than getting the kudos that you deserve for a job well done. And I think since you've been a member of the executive team at DISD, you've really stepped up to the plate and shown remarkable leadership in upgrading our IT infrastructure. And I'm glad that you've been doing that, because now we find ourselves in a crisis situation where we are overly reliant on IT, much more so than we ever thought we would be. And so I guess the good news for you is that you now are the sexiest guy in town, and you're in the limelight, and you've really risen to that occasion. And I believe that one of the primary objectives of any board of directors, is certainly the school board, is to wait for our trusted leaders and the management of the superintendent to come to the board and tell us when you need help and how you need help, and you're doing that now. And I will be enthusiastically supporting not only this allocation of money to upgrade our IT infrastructure and make sure all of our families have access to the internet, but also will eagerly support anything else that you need to continue along that path from now until the end of the school year, because I think we're going to be overly reliant on IT for several weeks to come. And I recognize that you weren't expecting the nature of school and the nature of education to change in this way. And so it would have been difficult for you to have baked into your plan and your budget the additional monies that you're going to need to help our children continue to learn through the end of the school year. And so I just want to encourage you, not only encourage you with about a job well done so far, but also encourage you to speak up if you need other resources from this board, because I for one, would eagerly support allocating additional monies as needed to help you provide the IT infrastructure that our students need. And lastly, I just want to give a brief shout out to Mita Havlick and the Dallas Education Foundation for stepping up and fundraising on this topic. I've exchanged dozens of emails with her over the last couple of weeks, and she is eagerly leading the foundation and that group to support your efforts here, Jack. And I'm happy to not only have the support of the Dallas Education Foundation and that board, but hopefully the support of my colleagues in supporting your efforts. So thanks very much for everything you're doing.
Thank you, Trustee Marshall. Trustee Mitch K. and Trustee Johnson.
Well, I'd like to second most of the comments that Trustee Marshall just made, and I do really appreciate your efforts, Jack, as well as the efforts of Ms. Havlick and the Dallas Education Foundation, in addition to everyone else who has made online learning a reality. I would encourage the administration that they are talking with the City of Dallas and the Dallas business community that web access, Wi-Fi access for everyone in the city is very crucial in a city with the demographics that we have. It's very crucial to ensuring that we promote equity in the city in which we live in. And a lot of people have been advocating for citywide Wi-Fi for a long time. And it would be really great if the district could use its influence with the city to emphasize how important it is to afford all of our kids, all of our families equal opportunity. And there's not equal opportunity if there's not reliable Wi-Fi access. So again, I want to thank the administration for what it's been doing, and just encourage the administration to work with others, other governmental and business groups to support Wi-Fi access across the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Mitch K. Trustee Johnson, and then Trustee Mackey.
Yes, thank you, Jack, for your work. Excuse me. What are you doing? What you're doing for our kids? I don't know if this. I did ask this question to Dr. Hinojosa, and I don't know if this is a question that possibly you may have the answer to at this particular moment. But in District 5, I service a lot of low-income families. They're not able to afford the internet, and so some have laptops. I believe we've reached a lot of kids that do have laptops. But for those that do not have the internet, how are they able to get on the internet? What steps are you taking to make sure that all our kids in District 5 have the internet so they can do their education and do their work and et cetera? Have you guys worked on that? I know Chief Lear is trying to give me some information, but maybe you have some answers that you can let our community know. Some may be listening, and so we're trying to work that out. Can you help me with that information, please?
Yes, sir. We are in receipt of your request for information, and we're working on that request to track down some specific numbers and how things look. But we made some motions just before spring break, and we made some decisions to decide to begin sending home those district computers for our secondary kids in grades 6 through 12 before we went on spring break. Now, of course, with everything that was happening those last couple of days before the break, we weren't able to get to everybody. And so this week, we have been working with school leadership at the campuses that are open for food service to distribute technology to any secondary students that weren't able to receive that technology before the break. And so we've been very, very steady this week doing that. I expect that we'll continue to do that work into next week. But it is our goal to provide assign a computing device, a district-owned computing device for every student in grades 6 to 12. And I think then our next focus is, of course, the internet access, and that's what this item is all about: is to go out and buy, if necessary, using district funds and/or some of the contributions through DEF, additional internet hotspots, so that we can provide those for all the students that don't currently have internet access at home too. And so I think with that combination of a device as well as access to the internet from home, high-speed internet access from home, along, of course, with access to the applications and the know-how to use these tools online, I think we will have a successful home digital distance learning program for those secondary kids. Right now, we've been focused on secondary students, but we are making plans in the near term to shift down to grades 3 to 5 as well. And so there will be some additional information forthcoming as we go further with that.
Okay, thank you. I'm definitely going to support this particular agenda because it definitely is in need. And again, I do concur with a lot of what both the trustees have said, Trustee Marshall and Trustee Mishkay. But I would like those numbers because I want to know what I can do as a trustee. And also I have other elected officials. We're working together to ensure that every kid in our district have internet, because at the end of the day, we want our kids to be able to be educated, especially in this time. And I think the administration is doing a decent job, a great job trying to maneuver in this time of crisis. So please let me know what I can do as a trustee to try to support the administration, support you, and trying to make sure that every kid have what they need to be successful while we're going through this transition. So I'll be reaching out to you offline once I get that report, so I can give it to other people that needs, other elected officials that's also asking, and that's going to be working along with the district to make sure that our kids have everything they need. So thank you for everything that you're doing, brother.
Thank you, Trustee Johnson. Trustee Mackey, followed by Trustee Garcia.
I want to echo a lot of the sentiments. Thank you, Jack, and your team and administration for the work you're doing and trying to bridge the internet gap. This crisis has certainly exposed a lot of areas across our city and across the nation that we can really strive to do better in. And I think I just want to highlight one of the things that I know we're taking all actions that we need to respond to this crisis, but eventually we'll still have a bond coming up. And I just want to highlight the idea that, again, I mentioned it before, I mentioned it again, this idea of joint projects, like solving these internet deserts is not going to be something that Dallas ISD can and should do by itself. And we need to engage the others. And I think the really forward-thinking idea of having money aside for joint projects to be able to leverage people like the city, like the county, like our private partners like AT&T and Verizon to come in and help us with that is a true game-changing way to systemically solve this rather than with patchwork that we're having to respond with as an entire system. So I just want to thank you for the work you're doing to make this as powerful as a move towards equity as we could possibly make in this time. And I just want to encourage us to think bigger picture and how we continue to work with our larger other entities here in the city to solve these problems systemically. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Mackey. And I absolutely agree with you. That's why we're kind of thinking this in terms of a short-term strategy and a long-term strategy. I think the hotspots are fine and very effective in the short-term strategy. We are having conversations with those other potential partners, in the Dallas region. And I agree with you. We'd put some thought. We'd potentially earmark some dollars for these types of projects in the 2020 bond. If all those things materialize, we will continue those conversations with those partners. And I agree. Try to do something really great, not just for the school district, but for the entire city of Dallas.
Thank you, Trustee Mackey. Trustee Garcia.
And just to continue the conversation too, I think this issue of internet access has especially hit home in this area of Southeast Dallas. We are a internet access desert, and so it baffles me to think how we have taken for granted, can easily take for granted the need to have a computer and internet access at home, not just to get schoolwork done, to get our daily work done and other items. I'm encouraged by the fact that we are talking about long-term solutions to ensure that students have this capacity at home. There's one thing that made my experience different at Irma Rangel than it would have been at Samuel or Spruce, my home high schools. It was access to technology like that my school provided for me to bring home. The same things that allowed me to continue with my schoolwork, to apply for college, to solicit scholarships, to help my parents find different opportunities in the community. So all of these things taken together made a fundamental difference for me as a student. And the number and the sheer fact that over 30% of those who responded said that they don't have this at home is something that we really truly need to work together to solve now. It's not just the fact that it's 2020, but there is not a single college student that does not can be as successful as possible without a laptop and Wi-Fi connection wherever they go. So encouraged by the fact that we're looking into this systemically, but also wanted to ask, when we're talking about the hotspots, we're also talking about providing this during the summer for the family. Jack, is that correct?
Yes, I think we're preparing. I guess the way we estimated this item, yes, we had estimated that this could go on indefinitely, and so I think we could potentially be using these hotspots over the course of the summer if there aren't any instructional programs then, as well as into next year. So we were taking more than the 30 or 60 day view on this.
Okay, and the reason I encourage that as well is because summer slide is a real issue for summer melt, summer slide, whichever folks are familiar with, is a huge issue for many of our students, especially for those moving on to the post-secondary space. I know this from experience with my work with the Dallas County Promise. Is very simple things like these can keep students from learning that they need to submit further information for financial aid or admissions and different things. So I'd encourage that we try to do as much as possible. Thank you for your leadership in this space, and continuously agree with Trustee Mackey's point that we could be thinking about this with the city of Dallas taken together to address this issue. But thank you for the work that's been done in this space.
Thank you, Trustee Solis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jack, reiterating thanks for your leadership. And I won't comment about whether you're sexy or not. So that said, I do want to ask a question. You may have already mentioned this, and if you have, forgive me. I'll just go back and watch the meeting and put myself through this painful process one more time. How does the hotspot actually work? Well, specifically, like, how are we, well, actually, just how does it work?
You mean technically?
Technically, and then, like, how are we paying for it as well?
Sure. So each of the major telecommunications providers have a slightly different, business model or cost structure, if you will, but it's kind of like a cell phone. I guess that's the easiest way to describe it. You buy the device. Some companies have an upfront cost for the device, some don't. The costs are pretty minimal, maybe $50 or $100 for the actual device. It's about the size of a phone, but it does broadcast a Wi-Fi signal. And if you set it up that you have a private code for your Wi-Fi, and basically you have Wi-Fi wherever you take that device, and so you can leave it in your home. It's portable. You can carry it around with you like a phone. It does provide, high-speed internet access, usually a 4G or an LTE type speed, and it can support multiple devices in a household. So the other way that we have estimated this potential investment is that the district would provide, one device, one hotspot per household, not necessarily one per student, but one per household, because there are multiple kids in many of our households. And that device would be able to support, obviously, multiple students, multiple devices accessing the instructional resources. The other thing I would add, Trustee Solis, is that we do filter the content on these devices the same way that we would filter internet access as it's presented from within a campus. And so we will make sure that that the filtering capabilities are enabled before those devices are shipped and assigned to the individual students. Does that answer your question, or is there?
It does. It does. The line item for this, what is the cost going to be to keep this going?
I think we had estimated the initial investment at up to $2.5 million between through the end of June 30th, 2021. So we are prepared, to use them for this summer and potentially into next school year as well.
That's helpful. The next question is how do we shut them off?
Oh, it's just like a cell phone. We reach out to the service provider and we let them know to shut off either individual or all the accounts whenever we're done with the service. So let's say we issue a device to a senior and that senior graduates, we can turn off the device. Of course, we would ask for them to return the hotspot and their computer at the end of their senior year. But if for whatever reason, if that hotspot doesn't come back, we just call the telecommunications provider and have them disable that service.
All right. And then finally, if we just wanted to keep doing this for however long we wanted to do it, even when school starts back up and kids go back to the district. Is that something worth considering?
We could. I think for right now, we were considering this more as a short-term initiative to get us through the remainder of this year and potentially next year. But we could certainly look at using this strategy longer if necessary. The other piece I would add is that we do plan to monitor the usage and really assess how effective it is as an instructional tool. Are kids using it? What types of resources are they accessing online? Is this the most valued, most effective service that we can provide? And so we'll be studying that as we go. We don't have those data points yet, but we do intend to collect and analyze that data so that we can make any adjustments as necessary, or as you suggest, maybe keep with us a little bit longer.
And if there were, is this cheaper? Let's say that, a parent was doing this instead of us doing it for a parent. Is this cheaper than just basic internet access?
Yes and no. I think lots of this is mobile broadband access, and of course, families do have the opportunity to subscribe to more of a fixed broadband access internet service at their home or their residence. You will see, and I think we have tried to advertise those or promote those as much as we can to the district websites and communications. But most providers are offering incentives and discounts to families, and certainly to families with children enrolled in school right now. So you can go on. AT&T is offering home internet discounts for subscribers. Same with Comcast. Same with Spectrum. Same with all the major providers. And there are some really good deals out there. We would certainly encourage families, if they can afford it, to look at those options as well. So it's hard to say exactly whether those are cheaper or these are.
Got it. That's helpful. I'll close with this. 3 things. First, it was once said during the financial crisis that you never let a good crisis go to waste. And while I recognize the severity of the situation that we're in right now, one of the things that it's forced us to do is have to be extremely flexible, nimble, and creative with our approach to education. I think it'd be worth considering, even if it's just you, Jack, thinking outside the box, like hypothetically, what might happen were we to try to provide internet access or hotspot access to our students who are the most critically impacted in these deserts? Is there a way to utilize this hotspot from a long-term standpoint? I don't know whether or not there would actually be any consideration by the administration or the board, but I think the concept would be interesting for you to think about as you're thinking about this over the next couple of months. The second thing, just if you don't mind, Trustee Henry, as a point of personal privilege, one of the other people that I really like to shout out who's been helping communicate what's going on through technology to our community is the work of Gene Davis, who we know as the DISD hype man. who I know is watching this right now, and he has his little son, Marty, who's also watching the meeting with him. I just think what Gene has been doing, getting out into the community, and in some cases, putting himself at risk to try to explain to our parents how you pick up the food and other things. He's done a great job. And so I just wanted to make sure that we said that. And then lastly, Trustee Henry, I've been watching lots of city meetings that have been live streamed, and they have been literally painful to watch. And I made a quip earlier about the painful process here, but I want to make sure that it's very clear. You have done a tremendous job running this meeting with this technology. And I think you do some credit, because I know you spent a lot of hours trying to figure out how to effectively navigate this meeting. So.
Thanks for that, Trustee Solis. Appreciate it. Trustee Flores.
So I'll start with where Trustee Solis left off. Thank you, President Henry, for guiding us through this and our first virtual meeting. I think it's gone so well, we should try to do it again sometime, hopefully not under the same circumstances. I also want to shout out to Jack and his team, and I also got a chance to talk to Dr. Durant about kind of our efforts in getting the information out there about how our students can get access. And I know that a lot of our parents were able to go to the campuses and pick up the equipment, and hopefully that'll get all kind of smoothed out going forward. And finally, just very quickly, a big, huge shout out to the Dallas Education Foundation and all the other organizations and foundations that are supporting this effort, this specific effort. I think the digital desert and that digital divide is huge. It's critically important to our work on equity. We need to start in those areas of town where it's needed the most and work our way out from those areas. And so, Jack, thank you so much for your leadership on this. I think I've heard a lot of kudos about the online learning from elementary school parents, from high school parents so far. So thank you so much. I really appreciate your work and also the enthusiastically supporting this vote. Thank you.
Trustee Garcia.
I did have a question, Jack, or I guess a general comment as well. I'm taking a look at the Community Resource Index that we have that I know we're using as a potential guidance in decision making, not only for the bond, but moving forward too. I don't see internet access as being one of the indicators, and I don't see having technology at home being one of the indicators. So just if it's not currently on there, just a recommendation for us to consider including those, given that this is a resource that has kept us in this conversation about how can students be successful at home, in not only in this moment, but moving forward as well, that we add those sort of indicators as well, or considering adding those. And a quick anecdote, but right before COVID-19 took the majority of our happenings, was able to take a student down to the library, check out one of the mobile hotspots offered by the library, so that that student didn't have to continue doing their homework in the late hours at McDonald's as a current college student, DISD grad now, and then was able to enroll their child in pre-K. So again, just the immediate impacts that it has to have internet access at home are huge, and just a consideration for us to take internet access as further consideration.
Thank you, Trustee Garcia. I thought at one point we did have internet access as one of the factors in the CRI, the Community Resource Index. And I know we've had conversations with Leslie Williams on that. So I'll circle back and double check. I do recall being in there at one point, but if it's not in there, we'll make sure that we do get it back in. So thank you for that.
And is there any way that we ask students at the beginning of the school year and families, do they have a computer at home or internet access at home? That currently doesn't happen?
That's a great suggestion too, because we are kind of re-engineering our enrollment processes going forward. And so we could try to work that question in as part of the overall enrollment or pre-enrollment activities. Again, great suggestion.
I would highly encourage that. Just resources, technology, Wi-Fi, schoolwork. I mean, it all goes hand in hand. So thank you for taking that into consideration.
Thank you.
I have a few comments. If I don't see any other comments, I'll try to be brief because a lot of my colleagues have echoed these sentiments already. I want to go back where this plan that you laid out when you had a long-term technology plan. I know you're trying to roll that out as quickly as possible. And in times like this, especially in regards to equity, we see the value and importance of that. I think if you wouldn't have led in that regard and gotten that ball rolling, would have been a much difficult situation than we are right now, where at least we have, at least at the middle school and high school level, the ability to get these resources to our kids, which, wouldn't hurt the folks of us in our community that have internet and can access learning other ways, but for our families that couldn't, it would have been very difficult for their children to learn. So thank you for your leadership in that regard. I want to, again, highlight Trustee Garcia. She asked about Southeast Dallas. Southeast Dallas is a desert, just like South Dallas is a desert. And even when we have access in South Dallas, the connections are really slow for whatever reason that is. So as you evaluate this, and we can have conversations offline, I'd really like to see if there's flexibility or room for those extreme deserts where people do not have, there's a higher amount of folks that don't have access to internet. And then coupling that, and not to beat on this drum, with a demographic that really can't afford to lose any more days of education. If we talk about ELL learners or African-American students. So I'd like to have a conversation offhand maybe about the equity aspect. Can you just confirm, I know you answered this question for Trustee Solis, but can you confirm that with the hotspots, you don't need to already have internet access at home? Is that correct?
That is correct, sir. These hotspots stand alone. You do not need to have internet access. You can use these. You can use these wherever you are. I mean, even for our homeless kids, you can use these anywhere. You do not need to have a previous internet connection in your home.
Do you plan on any of these being distributed to non-secondary students in any parts of the city? Again, I'm maybe touching back to the deserts, the high need areas. I don't even have a metric for that. But I know the district polled a bunch of families and got results.
Yes, sir. So working with Chief Durant and Chief Elizalde, we are, as I mentioned, contemplating pushing the digital learning down to grades 3 through 5 as well. We think we are well positioned for that. And so potentially we would be adding or providing hotspots for those grade levels as well.
Okay. All right, I don't have any additional questions. Thank you for your heroic effort to roll this stuff out. I know even Trustee Johnson was in front of SOC handling some of these materials out. So really appreciate y'all's flexibility. Before we wrap up the meeting, because it's the last agenda item, I wanted to spend a special shout out to that made this meeting get done, and that's Dino, even calling public speakers to run in test runs through this multiple times before today. Kay and Faye and Pam and who else has been on all of these things. Antonio and your team, I just really want to send an offer of gratitude for the amount of time and work you've been putting in. And let's not forget that the COVID-19 virus is real and it has been deadly in many cases. So even exposing yourself in different ways by getting out and about to help us effectively have a meeting where we can have a conversation and the public can see it and they can participate. So thank each of you. If there's any questions or not seeing any, it is 5:29.
We need to vote, sir.
We got to vote.
Vote.
Let's vote. Starting with Trustee Flores.
You're right, it is 5:29, but we still need to vote.
Flores.
Thank you all.
I vote yes.
Marshall, yes.
Trustee Johnson, yes.
Mitchell K, yes.
Garcia, enthusiastically yes.
Mackey, yes.
Trustee Miguel, yes.
Trustee Henry, yes.
The motion passes 8-0.
So it's no longer 5:29, it's 5:30 p.m. and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Good job, Justin.
Appreciate you all.